November 2024, the big picture overview. It promises to be a month in which we have what we would call a pattern interrupt. Big changes are coming. Some of it unexpected, some of it shocking, some of it welcome. First of all, what we're going to notice is that Pluto finally will leave the sign of Capricorn, where he's been traveling more or less since 2008. We get this incredible, intense lunation with a moon conjunct Algol, the fixed star of the demon's head, with Uranus. That's going to happen in the middle of the month. Buckle up. It's a big deal moon. It hits the United States, major players in a big way, just in the aftermath. It's probably going to be a contentious and very close election. On November the 15th, Saturn retrograde all the way since June finally moves into direct motion in the sign of Pisces. And finally, Mars, early November through till January, will start to journey through the first 6 degrees of the sign of Leo. But he also begins to form his opposition to Pluto in the sign of Aquarius, an energy that is new and fresh and something different for the world. So I'm calling it a pattern interrupt because there's things that we're going to see in the sky as this month unfolds that are heralding a new era for humanity, a new era in your life and my life. It's going to be the beginning of the new world order, so to speak. Hopefully not a negative world order, as in Klaus Schwab, etc. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the big stories. I'm going to show you the sky. I'm going to give you my thoughts about how it might impact various places in the world. One of them, the Middle East situation in particular, Kamala Harris, Donald Trump, Joe Biden. They're very implicated in some of these events in terms of what's going on in the sky in the month of November. I'm also breaking it down for your sign, so we'll do that. There are timestamps in the description box and pinned to the comments to jump ahead to your sign. What I want to remind you of, this is my second video on the lunation series, on the November forecast for each sign. You have an individual half-hour video with much greater detail about each separate thing that happens in a chronological way for your sign. So check out that playlist on my channel, and I'll pin that to the comments, and I'll pin that to the description box. Hit that more button and you find out everything. The only thing I want to share with you as a promotion this month before we get going is I'm giving you a chance to get my pre-sale price that ends November 15th for a delivered to your inbox private 2+ hour videos for each sign, delineation of how to time your best life in 2025 with a PDF guidebook for your sign as well. My thoughts about what you really should pay attention to for your sign, written down by me for you. This is my fundraiser each year. I just want to buy new microphones, a better MacBook Air. This one's falling apart. Hire timestampers and video editors to help me on my channel. So if you want to be a part of the channel's growth and you want to support me, then go ahead and please consider chiming in with that private sale. These videos never, ever go onto YouTube. And as I said, delivered to your inbox November 15th. All right. So let's start off and say, by the way, this is Western Tropical Zodiac. I am your astrologer, Lori Lothian. I will talk about minor fixed stars and minor asteroids. We have Icarus and Phobos in the mix, as well as Asteroid America during our presentation today. We're using these asteroids in order to get the devil is in the details. I also would encourage you to like, subscribe, and check me out by, watching more of my videos, and that notification bell will really help you. All of my videos usually cover about 20 minutes to half hour world event astrology, and then are also called mundane. And then we move into the all signs portion. If you don't like world event astrology, don't listen. When I talk about politics, I am speaking as a Canadian on the sidelines of America. When I talk politics, climate, world change, celebrity, stories like P. Diddy, I'm talking to you as an astrologer. I am trying to keep my opinion out of the mix. All right. So technically, keep that in mind because I get a lot of troll action. People are so hair trigger about stuff. I am not pro-Trump. I am not pro-Kamala. Believe it or not, that is actually true. All right. So I would rather be a third option. RFK would have been great. All right. So let's get going, although I don't vote in America anyway. Okay, so let's get going and talk about the sky. I'm going to show you the picture in a minute. Let me just say some things I'm feeling about it and what I'm kind of sensing intuitively about the month of November. I feel like November is a setup. I feel like it's kind of like the universe is going to kind of, open the curtain, like if you're at a play and whew, the curtain opens and the play is about to start, and maybe it does, and suddenly the curtains close again. And the reason I feel that way is I feel like this ingress of Pluto into Aries, Aquarius, which is, going to happen on November 19th as he finally is Capricorn, is being tested by Mars across the way in Leo, and Mars and Leo starting on November the 4th. And then later, Pluto and Capricorn. This opposition is something fresh for the world, and we don't really know what it will mean for us. This Mars in the sign of kings and leaders, right? Leo, and Pluto in the sign of we, the people. The last time this Mars-Pluto opposition played through our sky, we were back in the time of the American Revolution and the French Revolution. We're back at that time in history 250 years ago. And so we need Pluto and Aquarius to tell us what it has up its sleeve. Yes, AI. Yes, aliens, especially when we have Uranus in Gemini next year, full time. I mean, not full time, but in 2026, full time, but, testing the waters next summer. It feels like we'll get a bit of the flavor of what's coming, but not the whole thing. Certainly, I'll say one thing. Leo is a sign of leaders and kings. And, fixed star Regulus, where Donald Trump had the star at 29 degrees of Leo, where his ascendant is when he was born, that star is no longer there. It has moved into Virgo from our perspective because of the precession of the equinoxes and the wobble of the earth. And it now sits, that star from our perspective, in the Western tropical zodiac position of 0 Virgo. It's almost, to me, a feeling like it's the end of the kings, right? It's the end of the queens. It's the end of the monarchical. It's the end of the top-down power structures that run the world in a way that is like, we are the royals and you are the peasants. And yes, of course, we felt that in the American Revolution, not wanting to be under the weight and the heavy cloak of British rule without taxation, without representation, for one. And we also saw that with the French Revolution, let them eat cake, Marie Antoinette, who cares about the peasants starving to death? And boom, there's a revolution. Well, those energies are true, but the star Regulus was still in our eyeballs in the sign of Leo, kings. And this star means little king. It means things to do with born to rule, fame, power, and glory. And of course, Donald Trump, born with that on his ascendant. We've seen that. He's been very wealthy. He became the king of America. I knew he would win with Regulus on his ascendant when he did win that year. And it's like, we don't need that anymore. I think we're coming into a period for humanity where we don't want to be told by the royals or the aristocracy or the upper class or the elites or the corporatocracy, the plutocracy, the oligarchy, what the heck we should do. We want to move into a collective consensus. Now, with Pluto and Aquarius, things like the BRICS nations and other multipolar power structures will come into this world, because when Pluto has gone into Aquarius, historically, economic ties have fractured and new groups of more local or different economic alliances in the globe, and even back in the medieval ages, began to form independent of government bodies. New economic alliances began to be created, market alliances, trade alliances, and we're going to see a lot more of that too. And I'll be doing more of this in my 2025 videos. That series will be coming out soon to preview the stuff. I want to say that though, when Mars in the month of November moves on November the 4th into Leo, where he will be until January the 6th. He retrogrades on December 6th, okay, backwards from 6 degrees of Leo. He's like reaching over to Pluto after November 19th and having a kind of conversation about the power structures of royalty or celebrity, Leo, versus we the people, Aquarius, and power for the people. And we're going to see some big struggles going on, because this will be coming in the election and post-election period. So even though Mars will be opposite Pluto from Cancer to Pluto at 29 Anoretic Capricorn, that signature ends on November 3rd. And as the November 4th emerges, Mars has moved in across the sign border of Cancer into Leo. And that means this is an out of sign opposition. It just feels like we're not right. Something's off. There's tension, but there's no clear boom from the tension, right? Boom energy. there can be big boom energy between now. I'm recording this video October 30th, between now and, November 3rd. I mean, that Pluto Mars opposition can look like a terrorist event. And in fact, I dreamt that last night. But nonetheless, before we get to that, that's another story. That's a Capricorn Cancer axis. We're moving into something new. So there's a tempering and a feeling about it, but not a quite knowing about it. And it will be on December the 31st until January 7th, December 31st to January 7th, that Mars and Pluto will be in a direct opposition as retrograde Mars at 0 or so degrees of the sign of Leo will be exactly opposite Pluto at 0 degrees of Aquarius. And that's when we're going to see that real intense energy. And we'll see it once again in the last week of April. So the last week of December or first week of January, really, New Year's Eve, and the last week of April, we get that Mars, Leo, opposite Pluto in Aquarius. So let's go ahead and look at the sky. Let's break down some of the things that are happening in order of events. Oh my God, that moon that's going to happen. Oh my God, that moon is important. That is one of the most intense moons you're going to see. Let's go. Oh, and by the way, some people are asking me about what I'm wearing half the time. Moonstones by Otter Spirit. Love their brand. I'm an affiliate now because I can't get enough of their jewelry. This is moonstones are for high quality, high grade gemstones. These are Cancer, Libra, Virgo, and Scorpio is the signs that go with this. Third eye chakra. I thought I'd wear it to help my third eye give you the future here. And it's about intuition. So I'm wearing my moonstones today and black and white earrings. Just going to get in the vibe of whatever vibe this is, the dark and the light, the dark and the light. All right. So I'm going to move over to the sky. I'm going to share it with you and we're going to break it down into itty bitty bits. Now, I have told you already the ingress of Mars on November the 4th into the sign of Leo is going to bring us a new Mars in Leo all through November, all the way to January 6th. And we'll break it down for your sign, because if you're a Leo, it will be a big deal. And also we can see that we will have this lunation, and this is November the 15th. Two things happen at once on November the 15th. Okay. Saturn moves direct at 12 degrees of Pisces. And we have a moon. And you can see that this is Algol at 26 degrees and 31 minutes of Taurus in our current sky, in our Western tropical sky. Algol, the demon's head, Medusa, off with their heads, corpses, bodies, difficulty, alcoholism. But it's like decapitation. The Medusa's head was decapitated by Perseus. And also turning men to stone, right? There's a lot going on with that mythology, but usually it's considered to be malefic and it's a demon head star, except that it's also about wealth. I find it ironic that the New York Stock Exchange has its sun on this star. I know that occultists actually created events like the signing of the Declaration of Independence, and that's an occultist astrologers, what do you call those guys, Masons and stuff, that's founded America. They knew what they were doing to give the United States a sun on the dog star Sirius, our spiritual star from which humanity has come, apparently. But in this sky, Algol can be a precipitous shift around wealth and matters of wealth for the world. This is not your star. Algol doesn't matter to you unless you have a planet sitting on it. Any star in the sky, like Regulus, you need to have a special degree, like your ascendant, midheaven, North Node, South Node, maybe even your in all your planets, maybe even the asteroids sitting on the star by conjunction for the starlight to actually waken up and move through the chart, your chart, the world chart. So the world chart gets this energy on November the 15th. I've set the chart for Washington, D.C. We are now in the mundane or world astrology conversation. Don't forget, your sign is coming. Be patient or just jump ahead, but you'll learn something if you stick around. So bottom line is that when we look at this, I would say to myself, this is the United States. It's around 4:30 p.m. in the afternoon of November 15th. The election has happened. I doubt they're going to have the right answer. I guess they're going to have problems, ballot counts, miscounts, recounts. Something's going to hold up the results, perhaps. I've been saying this forever. Jupiter refrains from connecting with Kamala Harris's 24-degree Gemini ascendant, and has refrained from connecting to Donald Trump's sun at 22 degrees of Gemini, because around the 10th or 9th or 10th of October, Jupiter retrograded. So he came close, but not quite, and pulled away. It's like a refrainment, right? From coronation or kingship or luck. And so there's something going on here that suggests things aren't quite what they seem. In fact, Jupiter doesn't go direct until February, but the refrainment from the coronation archetype still makes me think there's no clear-cut winner, or there's some delay in the results, or there's big contests and riots and protests about the declared winner because it's going to be by such a small margin. My gut tells me one state will decide it all, and there's going to be problems with that state for some reason. As again, who knows, hanging chads, Bush Gore. Back in 1877, Saturn connected with the North Node in the sign of Pisces. That's going to happen next year. It doesn't matter that it's next year. It's still close enough to this election that the North Node in Pisces, after North Node moves in January 11th into Pisces, Saturn is there. 1877 election was really paper thin, razor thin declaration of the winner. I mean, it took a delay to recount the ballots. Okay. So I think that we're in a similar archetype this time around. All right. So with this day of the event in the capital city of the United States, it's like a snapshot chart, like a solar return. It gives us a flavor of the moon in the 2 weeks that follow the moon, and even up to 6 months. It kind of bakes in, like you would to clay, an exalted moon. She's exalted in Taurus. She's powerful on shock and awe, disruptive Uranus on the fixed star Algol demon's head. It happens to occur in the United States on the day of the moon, okay, as a first house event. This is as if this is a person, okay? And if I was to put in the midheaven and the ascendant, you'll see what I mean, right? Now you see this is like not a person, but it's an event chart. It's an event chart. So on November the 15th, in Washington, D.C., this is what the sky looks like. And the exalted moon is on the identity marker, the first house marker of the nation. You're probably wondering what this asteroid is on the sun over here. This is Deucalion. It's just like the Ark story, right? Noah's Ark. It's just like Noah's Ark. It's the same story. It's older than the Hebrewic or the Judaic version. And Deucalion is literally the guy that God said, there's going to be a flood, help save everybody. So there's a Deucalion story going on. We'll be talking about it a bit more, but it is conjunct the sun and reflected by a full moon. So what kind of flood energetically, what kind of like save everybody from the flood might occur? Well, unfortunately, just even without looking at the United States chart, right? There can be an earthquake that causes some kind of event like a tsunami. And it can be anywhere in the world because Taurus rules the earth. Uranus is the shaker and moon is the people. So we're seeing a potential lunation that could forebode a major earthquake coming in likely the 2 weeks around this lunation, maybe a couple of days before, up to 2 weeks after this November 15th event. Now, one thing about earthquakes, right, is it can happen anywhere in the world. But on the Washington, D.C. chart, we also have Mars, a malefic, in the fourth house of the day, which represents the property, land, and real estate. That may not be so great, right? So again, an earthquake could hit one of the coastal areas of the United States, or an earthquake in the ocean, and then the waves roll in. You know, I don't know that that's likely unless it's the Pacific coast, as you can imagine, where we have tectonic plates that are ripe and ready for earthquakes. Also, you'll notice that, you know, in general, when I see a chart where the midheaven degree is going to be so tightly, 0, that's where Pluto's headed. So it's almost like a foreboding here. Like on November 15th, around the exact time of this actual moon, the midheaven in DC falls into a 0 Aquarius. High noon means leadership, people in power, the king, queen of the country. In this case, the president of the country. The election has already happened November 15th. Pluto's about to slide here and join this 0 degree hypothetical space on the 19th. So there seems to be a lot of intensity going on, especially when Pluto moves over into the 10th house regarding the election, right? Who's in charge? And with Mars at the bottom of the chart, could represent like the Republican Party, because right now the Democrats are in charge, and there could be fights, battles, protests, and riots between the two parties in the post-election milieu, as this moon would indicate possible upsets there. Now, One other thing I'd say is let's talk people. Let's just talk people for a minute, right? And United States Sibley chart, by the way, is a Sag rising. So the United States Sag rising falls into an 8th house position here, and the house of open enemies, the 2nd house falls into the 2nd. We're not going to focus on that. What we're talking about is people. Kamala Harris has 24 or so degrees, 23, 4 degrees, Jupiter placement in her 12th house in Taurus. Her Jupiter gets completely activated by this particular moon. The only good news is her Jupiter is trine Saturn in her chart. Is that correct? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. No. Yes, no, maybe. Brain come back online. No, Jupiter is squaring her Saturn. So she's got a Jupiter Saturn square, Jupiter in her 9th house, Jupiter in her 12th house, and Saturn in her 9th house. So that square is a deep activation for her of something that could represent difficulty. Jupiter is in the house of self-undoing and self-sabotaging strategies. There's an electric shock cattle prod on her Jupiter that reverbs up to her Saturn position in her 9th house, which is really close to her midheaven at like 0 or 1 degrees of Pisces. Saturn at the very tail end of Aquarius. In essence, she's going to have a jolt of some kind to what could look like her positions of prominence or some kind of difficulty there. Now, it's after the election, so don't forget a lot of stuff is in play. The nation of Israel has a sun around 23 degrees of Taurus. It's going to impact the sun of Israel. Sun is a categorical meaning. It means leader of Israel. So the leader of Israel is going to be jolted because of this, or Israel as a nation will be jolted because of this moon. Don't forget, every moon isn't just about, oh, look at, here's a moon on the day of the moon. Look for the things that unfold a couple days before, up to 2 weeks after, and it kind of rolls through another 6-month period of time. And one way you can understand these moons for yourself is to look at what happened 6 months earlier when there was a new moon in Taurus, and how did it impact you? Indeed, if I was to look back in time and say what happened 6 months earlier for Kamala Harris and the nation of Israel, I might be able to make some very succinct stories about it and how it may be impacting them. What about, I will do that in a minute. What about Donald Trump? Donald Trump has no placements right here that I'm going to note of great importance, but his midheaven. So I'm almost forgot that his MC is there, and this squares his ascendant and squares his Mars. So he's also in incredibly intense stuff that this electric cattle prod of a moon is going to create for him, because his ascendant, his Mars is at 26 degrees of the sign of Leo. His ascendant is at 29, and that's down here, and it squares, right? So this is why Donald Trump was in assassination harm's way. I've covered this in my channel. I predicted it in 2 videos before it happened, right to the week and almost day of the actual major first assassination attempt. And that's because Algol is on his midheaven in Taurus in his 10th house. When Uranus got here with Mars conjoining, Mars is a malefic on July the 15th. Only a couple of days before that, we saw Trump in harm's way. I don't know that Trump is in harm's way from a lunation at the same point, right? I don't know if that's true, but it's definitely squaring his ascendant, squaring his Mars. So it's also very jarring or jolting for him. So let's talk about, just for really a minute, what happened to Israel, what happened to Harris, and what happened to Trump historically, going backwards, when we saw the new moon plant a seed at in this milieu of Taurus stories. Let me give you 3 stories to make sense of it, and then we're going to go ahead pretty soon and do the all signs, but I will want to definitely mention that Saturn is going direct, so hang in there. What I love about doing research in astrology is how useful it can be. So by going back in time, I looked at a few variables, and I forgot to mention that Joe Biden has his moon in the early degrees, I believe 0 or 1 degree, but early degrees of Taurus. So it's going to impact him less so than everybody else, but he's involved in Taurus, new moon and full moon stories based on his a sixth house lunation, his sixth house moon when he was born. So what happened back on like May the 7th, or around that time, for the nation of Israel, they invaded Rafah. So they went in and they took control of the border crossing between Egypt and Gaza. And that was at the same time they were refusing to go into ceasefire negotiations. And there was Joe Biden at the same time on the new moon in Taurus saying that he will withhold military aid to Israel if it did a ground invasion in Rafah. Well, so much for that, right? Because there has been multiple problems of ground invasion and decimation of Rafah on the border. But that's what he said on May the 7th. And as I record on October 13th, the United States State Department with the military are also issuing ultimatums again at Israel that if they don't put humanitarian aid into Gaza, there will be a withholding of military assistance and weapons. Yet again, similar things are already building, but we're talking about mid-November, post-election. How will things change regarding stories to do with the Middle East, Israel being unwilling to listen to international pressure, unwilling to cede any towards any ceasefires, and also just doing what the heck they wanted. So those stories are going to be up again in the news cycle. Biden was trying to give ultimatums back on May the 7th and didn't work. And Donald Trump, that was the May 7th, Stormy Daniels was actually testifying that she had sex with him in a hotel room. And it was all this intensity around yet one of his other legal scandals ongoing. And I could not find anything on Kamala Harris because she wasn't doing anything yet. Joe Biden was still running for the presidency, and she had literally no major news stories around the 7th, the new moon in May. Now she's in charge of everything, really. So we'll see where she goes with that. So at least I did some research and saw some themes that may reemerge, themes of ground incursions, belligerent ground incursions, maybe by the nation of Israel. That would probably be Lebanon at this point, not listening to international pressure. And we saw Trump going through another court scandal or some sort of scandal. So he may be back in reputation in the scandal zone, etc. So what else can we say before we finish up this world astrology and we move into the territory of your story and your sky? Hang on. For some reason, although I'm trying to share with you what I'm seeing, it's not letting me share. There we go. Now, one last thing, Saturn, retrograde Saturn direct. It's a long, slow, nope, it's not showing I'm sharing, but I am trying. Try one more time. Now I am. It's a long, slow moving planet. Saturn has been in the sign of Pisces since March of 2023. Finally, is full time in February of 2026. And with his Saturn retrograded around 19 degrees of Pisces back in June. And now he's retrograding, as you can see, and now he's turned around up here on the 15th of November. So now that Saturn's going forward for the world and each of us individually, places that we had to revise and redo and rethink and revision, it is time for us to move forward. And so forward momentum, Saturn may be capable of aligning here with the sky to help us resolve problems in the world that connect to hardship and water, hardship and refugees, hardship and displaced, disaffected peoples, hardship for the underprivileged, hardship to do with Piscean peoples and situations, shorelines and borders between shores, and like land shore borders are a Pisces feature in the ancient tradition. So things to do with hardship and shorelines. Is Saturn less malefic or more malefic when he's retrograde or direct? This is a question as an astrologer I'm always asking myself. I think he can be more challenging in a direct motion than in a retrogradation, more willing to put the hardship into the overt forms. Again, I'm worried about hardship with floods. Deucalion is like on the sun here. I shouldn't laugh, in a broad square to Saturn heading direct. So, what kind of floods do we have besides hurricanes, right? Is there earthquake flood energy coming in the world at large as a result of this now direct motion Saturn in hardship in water? And he's been traveling and still is with Gong Gong and Pisces, and that's also the sea serpent that's destructive and water sea serpent. So we still see the energies of destructive water events. Just have to say it's still in the sky. There are multiple hardship water events that could occur. Once Pluto enters into Aquarius, it will be in the nation of China's ascendant first house, close to the moon. And that could be the beginning of real tussles over the Taiwan-China waterway era storylines. And so again, that could simply be some hardship in water becoming overt again, as there is disagreements between China and Taiwan about who's in charge. And so military stories to do with water hardship in Taiwan, China narratives, maybe just what I'm seeing here as Saturn stations direct and Pluto enters into the first house of China's current astrology chart. China is an Aquarius rising. Other water hardships could involve submarines, missiles launched from waterways in the world, that kind of stuff. Anything else I want to tell you before we go ahead and do the all signs? Because there's a lot of stuff going on in the month ahead. But my focal point was Pluto moving into Aquarius and the shock and awe, radically electric charges of a moon happening in Algol, full moon on Algol on the 15th. Saturn goes direct, and Mars in Leo, November 4th through to January the 6th. And I'll be delineating for you fire signs today in your all signs portion, a little bit about how that might feel for you to have this taster of a fiery Mars in Leo. Okay. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to do your sign. We always like to start with Aries. If you're new to my channel and you haven't hit the like button or subscribed or you're listening to the live premiere, give me a chance. I am totally in love with astrology because it does help you time your best life. It is a navigational tool. The clock of life, the TikTok clock, the navigation through time is a map for us. And this astrology is a time map. So I'm going to be giving you your time map for the month of November. Highlights for your sign. The deep dive videos that have already been released are 30 minutes long and will cover every event you need to pay attention to. You can write them down. So please go check that out. Go check out your individual signs, and the playlist itself will be linked to the top of the comments and into the description box below. So you can catch more conceptual and detailed stuff for you individually. Listening for your sun, moon, or rising. Your sun sign is your career and purpose and things to do with your father and father figures, but it is also your eternal nature in the matrix. The avatar or the character that you play is your rising sign. And when we delineate rising sign forecasts, we're actually talking about how the steering wheel of your life is impacted by the sky, how you perceive everything changing. And your moon can be your body, it can be your home, your nest, and mother figures. And it's also like your mind, feeling minds, like the body-mind complex. But of course, on a practical note, I listen for my moon sign because it's how I feel about what's going on. It's my perception, my thought and my emotions about what's going on in my life. I listen for my sun sign, which is also the same thing. They're both at Aries because that's where like more of the solar essence of me is coming to life. It's like, I become more of my sun as I get older and less of my character because my sun is my eternal nature and it's my divine core essential self and it's fire. And I listen for my Aquarius, which is spark-like rising. I can play that very sort of science-minded type, Spock-like, I love humans, but I love humanity, but I don't like people, Aquarius. I listen to that part of my life for a lot of the sort of circumstantial changes that seem to want to emerge, no matter what I feel about it, my moon. And my soul is kind of like, oh yeah, this is my true reason for being here. And I often, really jive with solar forecasts for Aries when it really aligns with what I'm trying to create by being incarnated on Earth. So I want you to think of those three, listen for each, and over time, you'll start to notice which is resonating the most. Usually it's going to be a sun or rising sign. All right, so let's go ahead and do each sign and let's get started. All right, guys, I'm going to get this chart up and we're rolling through our sky together today. And it's pouring rain here in Vancouver. I don't know if you can hear it on my skylight above me, but it's really raining. Okay, so as we go into this storyline, here's what we have for you. In the month of November, when we begin this month, the first thing I want you to be aware of is Mars is moving into the sign of Leo on the 4th of the month, and it lasts until January the 6th. And what I want to tell you about this is that it wakes up your enjoyment, your passion, your love of life, your spark of joy, for creativity, for amusement and fun, but also for competition. It's a competitive spirit in you, gets fired up, and you feel like you've got this, you're going for it, you've got what you need to like be the competitor, to win the day, to be passionate about your love and sex life, to find the joyful engagement in playful, fun activities, and maybe even to work really hard on a creative project with a lot of determination, passion, and willpower. And as this begins to be felt by you this month, starting November the 4th, just know that on December the 6th, Mars will station retrograde at 6 Leo. If that means that all of those Aries folks, 0 degrees to 9 degrees of Aries sun or moon or rising, you really get a lot of intensity from this first 6-degree direct motion. Mars is moving direct only up to the 6th degree. And then the retrograde would have you deepen or revise or redo or reinvestigate something you've already been working on from November 4th to December 6th. And then you kind of pull back the reins. And if you're working hard, you might pull back the reins on the hard work. If you're passionately doing some competitive thing, you might pull back on your competitive spirit just for a bit of time. Okay. It won't last forever. The pullback is good. It's like pull the drawstring back, because you will spring forward in direct motion later on. Right. So the energy around this Mars 2-month stay in the sign of Leo is about you getting that spark of excitement and enthusiasm for creative projects and fun and play and romance and passion, etc. If you have children too, this could be the beginning of some time in which you're separating from a child, but in a positive way. Maybe you're going to be traveling away from each other. I mean, adult children in that case, or there's a child going off to university or college or school, or, there's just, some kind of shift, a measure of shift regarding your relationship to your children. That Mars usually means separation, but it doesn't mean it's negative. It can be separation as a trine for very good reasons, time apart. And lastly, if I was an Aries female trying to conceive a child, even a male with a partner, Mars unfortunately rules miscarriages or abortions and that kind of stuff. So it's not the best time for a conception, attempt at a conception, November and December. Alrighty, just keep in mind, November and December with Mars in the 5th house, it's not ideal. Now, the other thing you should know, of course, is that we have this electrical current of change with a moon that has a cattle prod effect in it, coming up with surprises on the 15th, with also at the same time on the 15th of November, Saturn stations direct. I will be doing a deep dive into the moon video, but for now, I will say simply this. There is a full moon that takes cue from the May 7th new moon in Taurus. That's your money, earnings, and resources. What were you doing in the month of May, May 7th? Add 2 weeks to restructure or reform or start something new in the earnings, money, resources part of your life, or initiated a major food style change, because things that you eat and put in your nose and mouth, including bad things, are in that second house. So where did you begin to initiate changes back in the month of May? And now how are you fulfilling them and bringing them into completion or harvest mode? And, financially, it could have been a new job you started, or if you're self-employed like me, it could have been a new aspect of your career and work that you started in the month of May. And go May 7th, add 2 weeks, you planted some seeds in your second house of earnings and resources and financial means and or food styles. And now you're going to be fulfilling it or taking it a step further. When I go back to me in the month of May as an Aries sun, which is about purpose and career, I was killing it, making 1,000 quadrillion videos because I wanted to go on the El Camino. Yeah. And I had to leave by the end of May. And I think I was a massive burnout. And so I could say, I planted the seed. I planted the seed in May of a massive run of video productions. And I was seeing clients. I mean, I almost lost my mind. But, that was a seed of overwork, but I'm fulfilling, I'm completing, I'm ending something, and I'll never do that again. So November 15th is a shift of some kind that fulfills a furtherness of what you started in your money, earnings, and resources and dietary style and facial appearance, including dental work. But not that that's a big thing about this, but it could be. And there's surprise, unexpected, and shocking developments maybe coming into this with the Algol star being activated by the moon. On the other hand, it is a wealth star. And Firmicus Maternus, I think, was the one who really pointed out there is money in that star. And these medieval magicians used it for wealth. Sometimes, backfired. But you could have lost your head, or you could lose your head, or you may stop losing your head in the money stories of your life. But you could also be triggering a wealth event of some sort. And it's like an earthquake or a shock and awe of wealth. And with Deucalion, the flood god across the way, there could be a flood of chunky money that's coming at you. Here's this flood of chunky money, unearned income, includes lottery wins. By the way, Mars will be in the house of playing games of chance, and he's the competitor. You might win some money if you are an Aries. And when it may occur is close to that moon, maybe the shocking surprise of a win, closer to that moon of November 15th. Okay, what about Saturn moving into direct motion? That's important, right? Saturn has been retrograding since June, and now he's going to go direct. Now you're going to go into forward momentum regarding things that you need to work on that are your own sabotage, self-undoing, and bad habits. This is literally your own fall away from yourself, away from the power of you, 12th house. So if you've had any structures of lack of discipline around quitting addictions or getting back in shape or anything you need to do to be better on your game, retrograde Saturn wasn't very strong in that regard. Now he's moving forward. Now you've got this. The wine lover's middle way. I will get this down one time, once and for all. Also, isolation, home alone, solitude is Saturn's specialty, especially in the 12th house. If you've been not as salutedness as you wanted since June, not alone enough, then now you can maybe go forward and get some depth of quality alone time with yourself starting November the 15th already. And that is a new direction of energy for you as we move direct. And Saturn is in direct motion. By the way, Saturn is in direct motion all the way through until November of 2025. So you're really now able to get over those bad habits and patterns, quit those addictions, move yourself into a place of less self-sabotage with sage-like wisdom and knowledge, and maybe stabilize any earnings that you make from overseas revenue and give new form and structure to them as well. And that means working for a foreign company, barter and trading with people in other countries, digital borderless income and revenue, new forms and structures can come to you for that kind of money as Saturn is now moving direct in the sky. Lastly, I want to mention one more thing. Pluto is moving into Aquarius on the 19th, 20th of the month, time zone dependent. But around that time, we get a new story for the next 2 decades until 2044 of Pluto moving through Aquarius. We don't mind Pluto in Aquarius because this benefits us, and it benefits us for one particular reason. As an Aries, it flows to us in sextile to our sun, our moon, or our rising. This empowers our career, sun, empowers our body, mind, or home matters, moon, empowers our ascendant, our character, and everything it's up to in the matrix. So in general, this transit for the next 2 decades will feel good for us, and we will enjoy it. I have several, maybe 2 or 3 Pluto and Aquarius videos I've produced over the last 2 or 3 years. I'll be putting a last new one out soon around the 19th, 20th, but go back and check my Pluto and Aquarius playlist on my channel, and you will find out more about that. All said and done, it can enrich you financially in your career, great riches in the house of great gains from one's career, also give you wealthy, powerful, influential Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos types allies and benefactors. Or a sibling one older than you could get quite lucratively filthy rich and powerful as well if you are an Aries with a sibling one older than you. Let's keep going. We're going to talk next about Taurus. And I need to just adjust my chart because I need to put it into the hours mode. I don't know why it's not in hours, but it's not. So give me a sec. And we're going to move into Taurus. Taurus, sun, moon, and rising sign. Well, let's go for the beginning of the story. For the September overview, first thing I want you to consider here is that you are going to experience the moon that we're talking about, that shock and awe, revelation, big change. What the heck is going on here? Earthquake event. And it's happening in the house of your identity. So if it's your sun, it's about your career. It's about your moon. It's about your home and nest. But if you're a Taurus ascendant, it's everything about your body, mind, character, self, the avatar, the game player, the game avatar, not the player. The player is your sun. Now, you've been used to this. You've been with Uranus in the house of Taurus ever since 2018 May, right? Through to October. Then he came back again in February of 2019. You have been especially over time, all Tauruses have been treated to a sort of revolutionary revision of self, a way to color outside the lines of who you are, and to bust out of any straitjackets of fixity where you're not changing yourself no matter what. Now you're willing to make some major changes of self-concept, identity, and the way you operate in the world. And you're innovative, and you have strokes of genius with this as well. And you're inventive. And this power is yours until 2026, I think it's end of April, early May, when Uranus is going to be done with you forever. Right. So this is your last chance, saloon. With this moon, new moon, full moon, full moon, what is ripening for you that you may have planted seeds for back in May, around the 7th of May, at a couple of weeks? Because you did plant some new seeds for yourself, some new ideas, some new ahas came to you, especially you Taurus is 20 to 29 degrees, sun, moon, or rising. You really are in the throes of this Uranus energy. Algol can indicate power and wealth, but it can also indicate you losing your head, off with their heads, and kind of losing yourself, losing your shit. And if you're going to lose your shit, you're going to lose your shit probably at your marriage type partner across the way. So be careful for what you do in terms of actions and behavior around November 15th at a couple of weeks in the wake of that moon as well, because you might just kind of lose your mind, lose your head, and really could impact the person you look at across the most, your clients, your marketplace, your business partners, and your significant other. The other thing is that on the day of the moon, of course, we also have the direct motion, the forward momentum of Saturn, and where you've been stuck or you've been holding back or where you had to rethink things is in your friendship circles. And, Saturn is a great pruner of the tree here. He may be pruning or have been pruning away your friends, less friends that you enjoy, pulling back on it. Maybe some friends have left town or you moved apart. You're more serious and sober-minded and constricted around social life. Something could have been clamping down on your social life, and you're not very social for some reason. And there may be some restrictions around and constraints around career gains themselves. This is true because Saturn retrograded in June, but now he's moving forward. And now you can begin to see that you will springboard forward through until next year. Basically, he won't even go retrograde again until next November. So you begin to get this forward momentum, especially forward momentum in friendship circles and career gains, and solidifying some of your long range goals and dreams and wishes for your life as he moves direct this month. And he will be, as I said, in direct motion till next fall. But I also want to let you know that he does enter into another sign, which is Aries, in the summertime. And so that is also going to give you a new flavor of this story of what Saturn wants for you. Yes. And he moves into the sign of Aries in February next year. So really kind of the momentum that you start to feel on November the 20th, 15th, you begin to feel that momentum through till February about friendship circles, career, less constrained. You're kind of serious, sagacity, and wise about your friends. You're really picking them and choosing them for the long game and the long lasting story. And you may have had an elder sibling, one above you, going through some depression, anxiety, or difficult times as well with the Saturn retrograde, but it's coming into forward momentum and forward motion. What else also want to remind you of is that with the Mars story down here that starts November 4th to January the 6th, you may be moving your home. This is a classic relocation transit, and he only makes it to 6 degrees of Leo. So anyone 0 to 9 degrees, 0 to 9 degrees, sun, moon, or rising in Taurus, 9 or 10 degrees, you're definitely having probably a move. And this is like, I'm going to go forward and move to where? I don't know. The transit is starting in November 4th. The retrograde is December 6th. So you could go back to a place you've lived before. You could rethink a move. You could travel to a home or homeland from your past between December 6th, and to January 6th. But moving home, changing home, or traveling from home is a big story for many Tauruses, especially those with degrees 0 to 10 degrees with this particular Mars transit. Don't worry, all Tauruses get the full Monty later after April 18th. Add 6 weeks or so when Mars is going to move through Leo again. And then you guys can move as well. And then finally, or travel from far from home. Watch for arguing in your home, just in general, November, December, because that's what Mars will do. He likes to cause conflict, and he's in the domestic environment. So be careful for domestic strife or difficulty as well, starting November the 4th. Finally, what about Pluto and Aquarius? Well, Pluto and Aquarius is a game changer, right? It's 20 years more of this stuff. It's your career. And you're going to feel like November 19th, 20th, when this ingress happens, that things are, it's November 20th at 3 p.m. Eastern time, but for some people in the world, it might be as early as November 19th. Pluto is going to say, hey, you need to start looking at your career through the lens of transformation, death and rebirth, power and riches, superpower, divine willpower. Can divine willpower power up your career for the next 2 decades until 2044? Why not? That's what Pluto wants to do. A lot of people have gone through this already. Those were the Aries people, and we weren't in charge of our career and purpose and our reputation. The divine was. And just be cautious. You don't come into plutocracies or power-hungry bosses or narcissistic, people trying to control you. So higher authority figures and father figures trying to control you will be a challenge to work with. But on the other hand, you can become all powerful, all transformed, all wealthy in your career. And as an Aries sun, this is my journey. It was my journey since 2008. It goes to you, Taurus. I pass it a baton. I pass a baton for you. All right. Other things I'd say just in general, if you're there's asteroids I never even talked about in here, but I'm going to save that. But for you, I'm keeping this one in here. There's this like Venus going through Capricorn with Icarus. And I want you to be cautious about this one. Just a little tip. Venus moves into the sign of Capricorn around Venus and Capricorn. When do you do that? On November the 11th or so, around Remembrance Day. And she ends up traveling with Icarus, who fell from the sky, whose wings melted, and follows game-changing circumstances. This is foreign shores, foreign lands, visas and passports, higher educational opportunities, universities, colleges, and campuses. And Icarus is like, where are you going to maybe have a meltdown? And then, of course, or legal and court matters and visas and passports. And then it follows as a one small domino effect. One small change dominoes everything into some kind of roller coaster of change or snowball effect. So there's a lot going on there during this month through November the 11th till December the 7th, where with Venus up there with these asteroids. Just be careful that you don't overly strive to succeed in third and ninth house matters. You might fall from your grace fall from grace up there. But on the other hand, let's not forget Venus will trine Uranus and bring you lucky, happy surprises as well. And those happy surprises may connect to foreign lands, travel and visas and passports and travel opportunities to far off foreign shores that come as a delightful surprise as Venus moves through the Capricorn sky, November 11th to December the 7th. All right, I'm going to just stop the share, going to grab a little bit more warm water, and I'll get back to finishing this big picture update video for November of 2024. All right, let's keep going, and we're going to get down with Gemini, Sun, Moon, and Rising sign. Hey, guys, look. See, people say, look, see, here we go. We have, first of all, just a reminder, Jupiter's in your sign through till next June. So enjoy the ride. Once every 12-year spell of some decent luck going on in your life. But that aside, as you notice, this month ahead has some 4 big things we talked about in the intro. Hopefully you listened to my introduction. I'm going to start off by saying, well, Mars is moving into Leo, right, on November the 4th, and will be there until January the 6th. He only makes it to 6 degrees Leo because of a retrograde in December on the 6th, but Good news is that Mars moving through Leo starting November the 4th feels good for you. It's like, oh, there's a bit of yay vibe as he sextiles your sun, moon, or rising, especially all you Gemini sun, moon, and rising in the first 10 degrees of Gemini. It kind of, you get a little glow up here. It's really good for your relationships to your neighbors, social events in the local neighborhood, your daily life and the routines getting a little bit more organized, ordered, and feeling better for you. You're more feisty and high spirited around social media, online, and writing, and you can dedicate passion and willpower towards social media and writing projects, including things like your website. It's also positive for short distance travel and learning, skills-based education. When he's here for 2 months, you might travel somewhere. Remember, all of November to January 6th could bring you into shorter distance travels, like going off to, a getaway weekend, that kind of thing. Not so much necessarily off to a far off foreign shore. You're will powered up in regards to writing projects, and you may have a lot more connection for some reason with aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces, and nephews, including conversations that could be quite feisty, but ultimately positive. If you have writing projects to do, your willpower and drive, especially through November 4th to December 6th before the retrograde, is extremely all powered up for those projects to be tackled with good willpower, passion, and drive. Now, another note to file about this story with Mars here, for some of you, if you are at all invested in any kind of audience marketplace, clients, you reach out with people in that 7th house, there is the cooperation of this with Mercury and Sagittarius as well. And Mercury will be retrograding here later in the narrative. We're not there yet. That's at the end of November, but you might be really good at getting things out into the audience marketplace or traveling with a significant other on those getaways during this transit of November 4th to at least to December 6th. When we look at the energy coming through the sky here of having the Saturn direct on November the 15th, and also the idea of that sort of, I keep calling it the cattle prod of exalted full moon in the sign of Taurus. Let's break it down. The full moon itself is going to be a indicator of some kind of breakthrough that is very subtle. It can be a financial windfall. Of course, Algol is a wealth star, but the money that could come from the 12th house is quite often connected to digital revenue, foreign land shores, income, borderless income, barter and trade, money from an international revenue source. And there can be something shocking and surprising or positively developing here off the November 15th moon. It is nice to see that the moon itself is in a trine to a Venus in Capricorn, that boss babe in the 8th house of chunky money. That is a strong placement for her. And so Venus is there on November the 11th to receive that moon from your chunky money house. And so a Pholos effect could be here. It could be one small thing leads to a big snowball effect. I'm a little concerned with Icarus, of course, where you might melt your wings here in some kind of shared resources with a spouse, with a business partner, or maybe just, tax rebates, inheritance monies, all of those kinds of things in play. With this new moon, look to May 7th. Full moon, what was going on in your life May 7th at the full moon on Algol with Uranus on the 15th of November, which will be happening in your 12th house? What was going on the 7th of May-ish that connects to the themes of the 12th house? So besides borderless income, foreign land shores, and revenue, this is also a connection to matters to do with getting rid of self-undoing, addictions, self-sabotage, bad habits, patterns, especially addictions. It's a house of hospitals, a house of jails. I don't know if you had any association of hospitals and jails in May. Hopefully there's not a redo, but full moons are taking something further to fulfill or complete what started in May on May the 7th at a couple of weeks. One thing about this is if you have to make a breakthrough energy, that's what Uranus is. The moon is about the body or the mind and the emotions. Maybe you could have a major breakthrough around something that has to do with food style. The moon is the ruler of what you put in your mouth. So finally you quit the gluten, the ice cream, finally you stop the wine, finally you stop the cigarettes, whatever. Those kinds of things can be blasted out of your story in a kind of divine download, holy surrender, or, one of those moments where you give it to God and God takes over. Now, Jesus, take the wheel, Carrie Underwood. It could have that kind of vibe around addictions here and getting rid of them for good and once and for all. Also, Gemini, it's a spiritual house, and you may have a bit of spiritual illumination, a spiritual awakening of some sort coming off this moon as well. Pluto on the 19th, 20th, time zone dependent, kind of slides into the Aquarius home base where he'll be for 20 years. This is where you begin to feel extremely powered up in book publishing, international travel and visas, passports, internet, third marriage environments get super powered with wealth, power, transformation. You're looking at a Plutonian transformation in the house of God, but so you can deep spiritual death and rebirth experiences in the next 20 years. I mean, all you have to do is talk to somebody who already went through this storyline, and that would be your Taurus risings. Ask them how it was. Higher education, Pluto power, Pluto transpersonal will. Some of you may go back or go to school, college, universities included. These are stories over the next 20 years that can be extremely potent. As Pluto ingresses, however, into this position, he starts to encounter that opposition to Mars. And so the only thing I'd say to you with Pluto in your ninth house, watch out for conflict between some deep transformation that wants to occur in your life. And you're feeling that impulse for spiritual truth, or maybe to move to a foreign country, maybe to acquire a huge amount of power and authority and intensity around publications and book publishing. But Mars, it got a little bit of an objection going all through November and December. So, until the end of the month, of December, there's a lot, and early first week of January, there's a lot of Mars-Pluto tension going on for you, November 19th through to the end of this year. Mars is busy in that third house. He may be passionately working on projects, writing, social media, travel, learning, and Pluto and him are not quite agreeing about it. But determined willpower is an extreme energy of Mars and Pluto. So you may have some determined willpower at hand regarding creative writing projects and things to do with your social media world and things to do with teaching and learning. And you just may be really intensely focused on these kinds of things. And Saturn finally goes direct, of course, November 15th, I almost forgot. And that's going to be direct motion after revisions that you've been instituting since June, a kind of a slow down and inward introspection from Saturn's sagacity about what it is you wish to do in your career, to be an authority, to be an expert, to be somebody in the top of their field and in their game, but also maybe getting tired and heavy burdened by the work or career path itself. And as Saturn is now going to move direct on November 15th and be in direct motion, by the way, all the way through till November of next year, but be in Pisces until February. I'm going to simply go with this. November the 15th to February of next year, Saturn is particularly concerned with how you are going to focus to create a long-lasting, reliable structure for career success, not something that's just going to work for a while and exhaust you, but something that has a long game plan, and including retirement, because he will finally leave here in February of 26. Ultimately, that sometimes is planning for retirement, depending on your age. He only goes through this part of your chart every 30 years. So often it's the second wave, right around 60 years old, that if you have this transit through your 10th house, you may be thinking of cutting out of work or career. All right, Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Start at the very beginning, right? What happens in this month ahead is Mars moves into your second house on November 4th, does not leave till January 6th. He only makes it a few degrees in. He's testing the waters up to 6 degrees of that sign. This is like where you want to actualize some change and decisions around money, earnings, and career strategies. With Chiron North Node in your 10th house, a lot of you have been striving for purpose, looking for the real path that you're here for, trying to align your gifts and talents with your truest purpose. And as you've been thinking about this, dealing with this, pondering this, Mars, Mr. Passion, Mr. Drive, Mr. Chutzpah, is saying now, November and December, What are the ways you need to change and move in a new direction that's aligned with your will and your passion? And, sometimes Mars here can be a self-starter. Do you want to start your own career? Do you want to activate a new path in your life? He is, in a flow to the nodes of fate in Libra and in your 10th house, could allow you to create a home-based business to which you are Vestal flame devoted. He could also give you the power to sell a possession. Mars spends money, and this is a house of our possessions. He will flow to the south node. Some of you may want to sell a property, sell things that are in and from your home, dispossess yourself of possessions. Mars can also have you spending money for career-related matters, and that's just fine. Go for it. You're going to invest in yourself if you spend wisely as Mars moves through that second house. And when Mars is moving through your second house, he does square your house of children, and you do have a lot of intensity in that house with Deucalion and the sun. So there may be some kind of conflict with a child that comes through this transit, especially November the 4th through to the end of November. And that can look like or the first 3 weeks of November in particular, it can look like some clash with one of your children, hopefully not too bad. I'm forging some new agreements and contracts with a lover or a child, or with an entrepreneurial business situation. When you move into the middle of the month of November on the 15th, not only does Saturn head direct in your 9th house, but also you're going to feel the energy of that electric cattle prod shock and awe, wow, what's going on, what's changing dramatically. Lunation. The moon is full, and it's on star Algol at 15 degrees, on the 15th at 25 degrees of Taurus on your 11th house placement. So you had a new moon in Taurus back in May 7th. You want to initiate changes in your relationship to an elder sibling, friends, allies, benefactors, larger social groups of belonging, maybe changing something to do with your gains from your career and the way you earn money from your career, shifting around May of last year. And what changes did you initiate? Because now this fulfillment or fullness is coming, or completion energy regarding initiations last new moon cycle in May. Cattle prod shock and awe. I know someone's going to troll me for saying cattle prod. I got to change that word up because I hear the trolls already. I anticipate you assholes. Basically, what is shocking you? What is shocking you in your 11th house could be about another person. You may have an elder sibling who has a surprise. It doesn't have to be bad. Algol is a well star. The moon is exalted and full. So maybe an elder sibling wells up on you mid-November, and you are like, whoa, this is great. Or maybe there's great benefits from a friend, an ally, or a benefactor that surprise you in a positive way, a favor from someone in a high place, etc. Don't always look at it as a negative. It can be quite positive. This is the house of good spirit. It does bring wishes and fulfillment of wishes as well, a surprising and electric fulfillment of a wish. Okay, on the moon of the 15th, add 2 weeks to see the evidence of that, but also 6 months for the full Monty to unfold. Saturn direct is a place that is about your spiritual faith and your beliefs, or international foreign travel and passports, visas, or matters to do with legal and court affairs, and book publishing. And so there may have been a setback, a delay, or rethinking, revising from June until mid-November. Now that Saturn's going direct, all things have been sorted. There is a solid foundation for forward momentum. How are you going to bring forward momentum to whatever it is that you wish to accomplish? And we had that new moon that happened in Scorpio on November the 1st, which also trined Saturn. So new forward momentum is here for you with publishing, travel, book publishing connected to children. So another example would be a child goes off to university, or, a child gets accepted or moves to a far foreign shore, or some of your creative or entrepreneurial projects become published. These are ways that this can flow for you. On November 15th, Saturn goes direct, and he will still be in direct motion in the sign of Pisces through till February. So it's a real whole swoosh of good energy in the 9th house. And finally, 9th house are sages, guides, and gurus, and maybe a guide, advisor, or sage-like wisdom holder may be entering into the picture in forward momentum to support you in some of your goals. It could be you finding somebody who's your person, your guide, your mentor, to support you in what you wish to achieve. And that is going to go on for quite a while. All righty. Now, someone is strangely in my waiting room, and I have no idea why. So let me just check it out. Okay, so what else? Pluto. So first things, Pluto is about transformation, Pluto is about death, and Pluto is about rebirth. When Pluto moves into Aquarius, November 1920, time zone dependent, you're going to feel this energy of I'm here. I'm here for the next 20 years. What do I need to learn? Well, it is about that chunky money. This is stuff that you need to do that is going to be literally about revisioning your identity. It's a moksha liberation house, letting go of your ego and building a new structure, a new identity for your ego. Like I decimating my sense of self and rebirth. It is a house like the cocoon, the caterpillar. So you're starting to feel like, oh, I'm in a cocoon. I'm going to rebirth my new identity over the next 20 years. It is chunky money you share with your spouse, such as spousal support, money from inheritances. It's money from taxes, investments. Pluto is a god of wealth and the underworld. It does encourage you to get richer, especially when money makes money, like stock investments, equities, bonds, whatever. Pluto does rule things to do with metals and precious metals under the earth. I wouldn't take that as financial advice, but I'm just saying Pluto in your eighth house so can bring you newfound, deeper, more profound treasure chests of wealth. And in the next 20 years, you'll know that to be true. Unfortunately, when Pluto first arrives here, he ends up opposing Mars. Mars will be in Leo, as we know, for most of November and December. And therefore, Mars is like, okay, Pluto wants to make you rich, and you've got a Mars action hero in your house of earnings. You may not be ready to rely on the inheritance, the spousal money, the investment money, the retirement funds, because you've got a lot of passion and drive about something going on in your earnings and resources. It may take you time to figure this out. Otherwise, you've got a lot of willpower, a lot of drive, and a lot of determination. That's Pluto Mars, like a will of iron steel will, and willpower on steroids to get something accomplished, to do with maybe changing a dietary style or habit, or changing something to do with the way you earn money and make money in your life. Or again, with the South Node Mars, taking money from the sale of a property or an object that you own that is very much about your family of origin, selling the great family painting that no one was ever going to sell, selling things to do with mom and dad in childhood, these sorts of moving away from that stuff, like dispensing yourself of those things, dispossessing them. And Pluto's just up there. He's just there. You got to get used to it. He's going to be there for 20 years. So let me know how that Pluto transit works for you guys. Leo, sun, moon, and rising sign. We're doing an overview for you guys of November 2024. Don't forget to check your deep dive all signs videos. I should say this for every sign. You have a 30-minute video pinned to the comments in the description box. This is just a highlights. First of all, Leo, it is you that gets the Mars ingress. It's you that lives with Mars for 2 months up to the 6th degree of Leo. So anyone 0 to 9 Leo, you get Mars hovering in your zone, like 0 to 9 Leo. You feel it, sun, moon, and rising. And he arrives on November 4th. He leaves on January 6th. He retrogrades on December the 6th at 6 Leo. 6 Leo, sun, moon, and rising. You're really feeling it. You're going to go forward and you're going to go back. You're going to start going one way and you're going to reverse course. That's okay. That's just what must be done. You'll get a lot of Mars in Leo April 18th, add 2 months. So you're going to come back to it later. Now, this is an energy that says you can make decisions, take actions, be more like powered up in your choice-making abilities about what you want. However, you also have a fiery sword in your hand. It's hot and you're facing your marriage partner over here. Watch for conflicts with a marriage partner, especially as Mars will be in opposition to Pluto by degree all through the month of November and all through the month of December, heating up really December 31st to January 7th. So if you are in a relationship already, it could end it. You will cut, end and sever, not the other person. You got the knife in your hand, you got the dart, you're throwing knives, hot knives, flaming knives at somebody over here. Is that a dominating marriage partner? Is it time for a relationship to end? Do you have to cut away from that business partnership? Do you have to throw a flame at a troll on your, in the land of open enemies? So there's a lot of intensity here for you. You don't suffer fools gladly. You're a direct motion Mars until January 6th. You know what you want, you know what decisions you have to make, and you know what actions you have to take. And you are on your game. End of story. You don't mind a fiery Mars in the house of you. Just be careful you don't hurt yourself, especially regarding heat. And therefore, solar heat would be sunburns. Solar heat can just be anything hot. So you could have heated injuries. So be careful for the words heat, hot, solar, and injury. Don't go under a solar lamp and forget to turn it off, or don't go to a tanning bed and forget to turn it off, okay? Because you could injure yourself. Now, second of all, Leos, what you have going on here is we all have this electric current of a moon, which brings surprises, and it's your 10th house on November 15th. Major unexpected, but maybe exhilarating changes. Algol can bring wealth or off with their heads. Someone could get fired in the career job space. You might quit or you might get fired, but there's exhilarating, shocking, surprising developments coming off of a full moon in your 10th house of career. You would like to go back in time and see what you were doing in the career space May 7th, add 2 weeks, because that's when you planted seeds of what you wish to see happen in your career and reputation zone. But with the electrical current on top of it all, there's a shock, there's a surprise, there's something you didn't see coming. Expect the unexpected, but the moon is exalted in full, so it should be more or less a positive surprise. I'm going with that myself. And as in the career space, be attentive to bosses, people in the career space, colleagues, and others up there. It is definitely an electric shock, but also I think it's going to be good. Could increase your financial wealth in your career as well. You have a flood, Deucalion, Noah's Ark, with the sun in the 4th house. There could be some major changes coming off this moon to do with where you live. And you're also kind of like the ark, you want to get it, above the water here and make some changes in the home. And, Juno down there would be contractual agreements around the home. And looks to me a little bit like with Saturn and Juno down there and Uranus up there. You may have some opportunities to buy or sell a home that surprise you, a little shock and awe in that regard, or a contractual agreement for a rental property could be coming to you in the middle of November. And you may be like changing your home or renting a home or renting or leasing out a home. And those are very possible mid-November stories for a lot of Leos. When Saturn goes direct, he goes direct in your 8th house of inheritance money. And with Saturn here until 2020, March of 23 to February of 26, there's inheritances from elders that can come, grandma, grandpa, great uncle Joe. That's the vibe. So elders dispensing money or giving money to you, stabilizing your money, investments, resources, looking at structures for taxes, getting an accountant in the mix, figuring out how to stabilize your treasure chest of money you share with other people. And that includes, credit cards and mortgage holders. So Saturn is restructuring it, and he goes direct on November 15th. So if you need or want to really work on some kind of financial structures that are going to last, I think this is time to do that. When he was retrograde since June, you might have been rethinking and revising your strategy, but you may now take clear and direct action on those changes. Saturn is in Pisces, as I said, till February of 26, although he will dip out in February 26th. Yeah, February 26th, although he will dip into the sign of Aries as well as a teaser taster next year. He's mostly still there. So you still have to figure out about what long-term financial structures you wish to put into place that is connected to that money you share with other people. Now, Pluto moves into Aquarius. That Aquarius part of the sky is your 7th house of significant long-term love, as I mentioned. It's why Mars is opposing him. He'll be there the 19th, 20th or so of November. Over the course of the next 2 decades until 2044, Pluto simply says you bring wealthy, powerful, and dominating people into your life. Unfortunately, it is quite often meaning that marriage type partnerships can be, you keep hooking up with the narcissist or the controller or the dominator. Be careful. But if you're in a marriage and it's not going well, or a long-term love relationship and it's not the right one for you, then Pluto can end that relationship. And he's, especially at 0 degrees, extra potent. So he'll be here at the 0 degrees, yes, November 19th, 20th, all the way through for 20 years. But look to November to see, with the opposition to Mars, is it time to end that business contract, legal agreement, business partnership, love relationship? And are you ready to do so? Some of you are indeed getting ready. Otherwise, your partner could also be wanting to have a change in the relationship. Although you're the one with the sword, maybe you're fighting back. Who knows? Any other things I need to tell you? Well, Mars is flowing to the North Node in the ninth house, and it's really a good time for you guys during the month of December and January to consider, well, through the month of November through to January 11th, to consider if it's in your highest and best good to take a journey abroad. And if you do, you're making the right decision. So travel is sanctioned by this nodal axis story until January 11th. So planning or taking trips abroad or even domestic trips to places you've been before can be auspicious for you as well. All right, Leos. Virgo, sun, moon, and rising. Your sky tells us a few stories. Let's discuss them. November the 4th, highlights, of course, you have a big 30-minute private deep dive video for your sign. Go check the description box and timestamps where I've pinned it. This is just an update. But what you do have in here, Virgo, is you have the energy of Mars in a 12th house placement. Look, it's an addiction, it's a bad habit, it's a pattern of sabotage, and it's time to cut, end, and sever. You're testing the waters if whether you can do that, because Mars will only be here up to the 6th degree, and then he leaves and backtracks. But November and December through to January the 6th, you can make some significant progress in ending self-sabotaging addictions and habits. This is especially true with the South Node in the second house of things you put in your nose and mouth that could be bad for you. So this is giving you a lot of willpower and a lot of intensity. And it's especially true in November through to December 6th, November 4th to December 6th, because November 4th to December 6th, because Mars is in direct motion. So that's a good time to do a sober November or a cleanse of some kind. I mean, truly engage it, because you have the power of Mars at your behest to allow you to be a clean cut, a clean break from that addictive substance pattern or habit. Already, it's a good, it's classic sober November, if there's such a thing. Now, the other thing about it, or whatever drug you're using. Now, the other energy here is that as Mars is moving through this part of your sky and you want to make those cuts and changes, he is going to be opposing Pluto. So keep that in mind. Pluto, especially after mid-November, means that you're either super determined, November 19th, 20th to the end of the month until December 6th, super determined. You've got the will, the drive, the ambition. You got this to cut away those addictions and self-undoing and bad patterns. And it could mean that you are also super willpowered up around the work environment where, even you're taking the work home and working on it at home. You're not going to quit. There's some project at work that requires your determination and your unyielding willpower and drive. And that's very intense energy mid-November, November 19th to the end of the month, where you're just grinding or driving to get something done. And it may include some time at home working as well, taking the projects home with you or into your solitude and private life. Let's go to the electric moon that's happening on Algol. This is going to happen up here at 9 degrees. In your ninth house at 25 degrees, 26 degrees up here. The moon is on the 15th of November. Okay, I think it's at 24 degrees. The moon is on the 15th of November. It is a moon that's full, exalted on a shocking planet of change and unexpected developments. And it is connected to Venus's ambitions, right? It's her lunation. And we'll be diving into that when I do the video just for that. But it's not so shabby that even as intense as it is, Venus is in a flow from Capricorn. So it has more goodness than lack of, in my view, although it is a bit jarring. So Venus is what do you need to do in your life on this lunation of November the 15th, 2 weeks after, that continues to fulfill and fruit something that you planted in May about travel to foreign lands, visas and passports, matters to do with moving even to another country, matters to do with legal and court issues, matters to do with book publishing, and finally matters to do with higher education and spiritual faith and belief. A lot of meanings to the ninth house, because the ninth house is a Lakshmi luck house, and a crow just flew right over my window, my skylight. Because of that, a Lakshmi house for luck, and an exalted moon ruled by a boss babe Venus in the 5th house of money luck. Some Virgos may come into some money luck stories coming through their sky in the 2 weeks that follow the new moon. So look for that 15th of November, add 2 weeks. Some money luck developments may occur for you. especially because Venus rules your second house of money and possessions. So I'm really feeling that possibly a lot of the financial luck is in the sky for some of you, that you're going to feel this is like a bit of the Lakshmi grace. The Lakshmi grace is upon you. Venus is in the house of lottery wins, just a tip, right? So it's not bad for you guys to play a lottery ticket mid-November around the 15th, and you never know, you could win some money. Otherwise, it's a fertility transit, and if you're a Virgo and you want to have a baby, or you have children who are old enough, you could find out grandchild surprise or pregnancy surprise coming off this November 15th full moon in the 9th house. What about Saturn going direct? Saturn was retrograde since June, and now on November 15th, he's also heading direct in Pisces. That is a place of your significant long-term love relationships, which are under testing. So if you're single, you could bring in a new long-lasting relationship with someone, maybe even karmic or 6 to 7 years younger or older than you, minimum age difference. But also if you're with someone already in love and long-lasting love, Saturn is testing the waters to see or whether or not this is a solid relationship, that the boat doesn't have a hole or a leak in the bottom of it. And it's testing that relationship till February of 2026. So when he goes direct after June's retrograde, maybe that has been a testing, a trial, and a tribulation. If you go back to June through to now, mid-November, have you had some bumpy rides in the sea of your relationship? Has it been tested, or has your partner gone through hardship where they've been depressed, melancholic, burdened, responsible, and controlling even? And if that's true, this is about to change. Saturn goes direct. Things get moved forward into new territory. Some of that territory you've traveled before, sure, but now you're moving forward over it. So you're going to begin to see what you want. Saturn goes direct all the way through till next November of 25, but he is only in Pisces till February, and then he comes back later. But you get the vibe that this is like all systems go forward now in my long-term committed love stories, legal contracts, agreements, or business partnerships mid-November through to February. Last gasp on Pluto. Don't forget, I mentioned him early in that opposition to Mars, but nonetheless, this is a Mars-Pluto opposition, and Mars we talked about already. Get that addiction under wraps or something. Get the self-sabotage thing fixed. However, another thought I have here is Pluto in the 6th house is going to be in a place that has to do with servicing your debts karmically. And it's a deep dive of transformation. And we often experience the 6th house as a work house, already a workplace. So in the house of work, in the house of employee relationships, you could be the boss, you could be the employee. Powerful transformation and growth is ahead of you over the next 2 decades. It's intense. It also, you can transform yourself in terms of health challenges that completely shift your perspective on life. And one thing is, as Pluto ingresses here, November 15th, 16th, November 19th, 20th, he will be having a conversation with Mercury, and there could be some powerful opportunities for rental contracts and property agreements, or the death of a pet. Okay. So the death of a pet or property rental agreement contracts, November the 19th through to the end of November. Libra, sun, moon, and rising sign. The sky in the month of November is clearly showing us some hallmarks of big sea change. And for you, don't forget, you have a 30-minute video just for your sign with more detail. I'll pin the information to the description box and the comments. This is an overview, and I'm highlighting 4 matters. Mars is to start November the 4th. Mars is moving through the sign. Mars is moving through the sign of Leo. He gets in there until January the 6th. He only makes it to the 6th degree of Leo. So therefore, if your Libra sun, moon, and rising is, 0 to 10, you're going to feel most of this first movement of Mars and Leo. The rest comes for everyone else next April 18th, add a couple of months. So for you guys, you get the sense of what is it you need to change, what changes of direction may occur when it comes to matters of your career and the gains from your career. You may also find that this is going to lead to some discussions, maybe fractures or challenges with a sibling, one older than you, or even to do with a friend and an ally, some friend or benefactor or ally in your life, and maybe a fracture or a break or cutting or separating in that relationship. When Mars is here, though, he's about passion and drive and ardor. And this is a house of the gains from your career. So he is through a lot of work and a lot of drive that you may increase your financial wellness. Mars is also in the house of dreams and visions and goals and all the things you wish to fulfill in your life. He may be making some changes, pruning it. Sometimes people quit jobs or jobs end when they're in Mars is here. And if your Libra sun and moon and rising is again in the first 10 degrees, there could be an opportunity for a new job. So one job severs and a new one begins. Okay. When I see this Mars, I want to remind you gently that it starts off right away, November. Not right away, but by mid-November, by November 19th, we'll find Mars in an opposition to Pluto. Wait till I get to Pluto. We'll talk about that. Mid-November, on the 15th of the month, we have a moon that's got an electrical shock and change in it. And Algol is a well star, and it is an exalted moon ruled by a Venus flowing from Capricorn. It's not bad. It could bring you some exalted wealth from an inheritance, some exalted wealth from a sale of a property, or some kind of payoff or payout on a stock investment, some kind of money from somebody in your family of origin flowing your way. And this energy is not just about the moon on November 15th. You want to give it up to 2 weeks to see what it's about and up to 6 months for the full fulfillment of it. However, there were seeds planted in this chunky money 8th house. Tax structures, investments in the market, stock markets. Did you buy stock in May of last year? Maybe it's going to go into a fruition, a fullness. Be careful, of course, because markets are turbulent. And so keep your eye on investments, credit card debts, mortgages. These are where the surprising full exalted moon is happening. But with the flow to Venus in the 4th house, it bodes better than less better. Well, it bodes well, a small domino effect change that you might make in your home, at home, from home, or about home in real estate and money matters can have a fulfilling positive development in your wealth profile over the 6 months that follows this moon in the 8th house. Now, the 8th house is a lot to do with the occult mysteries, magic, tarot, numerology, but it's also other things. So you can have a breakthrough insight or breakthrough revelation on this moon. It's also royalty income and derivative incomes and ad income, like on YouTube, default ads, and explosive growth of those derivative financial sources that aren't your everyday earnings is a possibility in the 6 months that follows this moon. Now, the other thing, Libra, is that Saturn finally goes direct and Saturn moves forward in a work house. I don't know how it's been, but the retrograde started in June, and Saturn in the work environment, colleagues and coworkers made it feel like you were, kind of having to pull back a bit, go inward, maybe be less bossy, or your boss pulled back. And there's a kind of shift and revision in the workspace. Also regarding matters to do with debts and pulling back on that, maybe paying off a few debts, restructuring debts, including financial debt, like, mortgages and bank loans, and doing some restructuring of those debts. And that may have been true since like June of last year. And it's going now, Saturn's done with all that work, backwards restructuring, revising, and he's going forward. And as he goes forward now through to February in the sign of Pisces, you are making very strong, stable, and structural decisions about work, debts, but also health. You can improve your health now. You can give yourself new solid structures for better health as you see this Saturn going direct mid-November through to the February of next year, actually. Pluto moves into your 5th house. Now, this is new for you, 20 years ahead. You could have, starting on the 19th and 20th of November, massive, intense, powerful, transformative romantic love stories. Deep intimacy, under the surface, going under, deep in love. Love stories that transform your whole life. Pluto here can make major transformations in your creative projects, entrepreneurial business structures, and in regards to the lives of your children. Pluto here in the beginning of this November 19th, 20th shift into Aquarius encounters that opposition to Mars that really heats up the first week of January. And so it is a long-standing opposition that can give you determination, drive, and extraordinary willpower regarding the themes of creative projects, entrepreneurial projects, grinding for great career gains, making major drive and willpower around increasing your success financially from the thing you do in the work you do. You may also have big transformations with a lot of intensity, but using commanding drive and willpower regarding your relationship to your children or to social friendship circles. Now, how you use a Pluto-Mars opposition is to use it to be empowered through divine will and personal will in a way that is formidable. But if you don't use it that way, it's conflict, and conflict between you and your friends and you and your children, conflict between your children and your friends, big push and pull between the career ambition and goals and what you want to do at home or downtime in your artistic and creative deep dives. Conflict between a day job, work job, and an entrepreneurial life and career. These are push pull, and something's got to give, right? Who's going to win this dynamic? This is not a story that's a one-off. You're going to continually have this teeter-totter for 20 years, because every 2 years Mars will oppose Pluto in your 5th house. So let me know how that goes, guys. I'm waiting to hear. Finally, Mars going direct in opposition to retrograde Pluto. I want to just mention for you, watch out for this thing to do with your work life being disabling of your spiritual life. And Jupiter wants you to go deeper into your spiritual life, and Saturn wants you to work hard. So there's a push-pull between work and spiritual ambition, or work and educational ambition, or work and teaching ambition. And so keep your eye on that ball. That's going to continually be there until 2020. June of 2025. It's time for a break, a little chocolate break. I'll be right back. Like, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications. Thank you. And I'll be right on back. So let's move into the next sign on the update video. Don't forget the all signs individual videos are already out, 30 minutes each. Check your sign. We're moving into the next territory of Scorpio, sun, moon, and rising sign. Well, first of all, Scorpio, Mars is your ruler, and he moves into fiery Leo, your 10th house of career, on November the 4th. That's going to have you either driving passionately and purposefully towards new levels of success, or wanting to quit your job, or your job wanting to quit you, because this is what Mars does. He ends, cuts, and severs. But who knows? Maybe you're also like, I'm on it. I'm getting it done. I'm ambitious. I'm will powered up. And you're really grinding hard to get some things accomplished in that 10th house of reputation and career. He gets here November 4th. He does not leave till January 6th, but he will retrograde in December on the 6th. He stations retrograde in December at 6 degrees of Leo. This means if you're a Scorpio, sun, moon, and rising at 0 to 10 degrees of Leo, you feel it a lot. It's really beaming at you in what's called a square. It feels challenging. It is gnarly. You might not like the way it feels. You're working hard, and maybe you're not excited about that. Or you have to quit the job, or the job has to quit you, and you're not pleased with that. Mars in the top of the sky squares your descendant. It may also cause turbulence in your long-term committed love stories as well. So it's a bit of a difficult story. This energy is here all of November and all of December. So you better get used to it. Now, with Mars at the top of the sky, a lot of times we can look at our lives through the lens of choice. Mars is a decider. You might be making major decisions in November and into December about what you want to do in your work and career space. Like, should I stay or should I go? Is a classic Mars question in the 10th house. Maybe you're not sure. You will probably figure it out by the time we get to January. The question emerges on November the 4th. We also notice that we have a lunation that has got some surprises up its sleeve. It is on Uranus, the shock and awe guy. And Uranus North Node, Uranus exalted lunation, exalted moon, is not about you. It's about somebody else. You're over here. This is everyone else around you, particularly business partners and mates, love mates, long-term partners, spouses. They're having a surprise. You know your surprise. I don't know what it is. You can ask them what surprises or what new seeds did your main squeeze or business partner or significant others in your life plant that you can think of back in May 7th. Because on May 7th, a new moon over here is now becoming full or fruited or fruitioning. So the surprise or the shock or the developments, and it is a well star, are maybe for your partner and your significant other and not for you. It does flow to the lunation Lord Venus in Capricorn. It can involve surprises in your partner's life to do with travel, education, work and job, especially in the local environment. Those are things that may shout out at your partner, and they or he and she may have a surprise for you. You don't have a relationship. Well, then you can get one. If you're a Scorpio looking for love, a shocking, surprising, out of the box new love story through travel, a travel opportunity, an educational opportunity, or just at the local bar, restaurants, or even online dating. Why? Because all the third house stuff that Venus is hanging out in. And you may have one small thing that leads to a major relationship in the 6 months that follow this moon on November the 15th. Now, there is a surprise, that's for sure, something you don't see coming, and you may see evidence of it, really close to the November 15th moon. It may show up really quickly. But it could also have surprising developments around conception and children and pregnancy, just because it is going to be able to talk to Neptune in the house of fertility and children and Saturn. So there may be some surprising developments around those themes for you and a partner as well. The other energy that I might say is that Saturn is direct on November the 15th, after being retrograde since last June. Saturn is direct in the watery Pisces realms, where he's been traveling since 2023, March. What happens for you is it flows to you from the fifth house of children. If Saturn went retrograde since June, and you were thinking things went backwards and deepened or revised with your children about fertility and children, revisions around creative and artistic projects or entrepreneurial business endeavors, new forms and structures being built. Now Saturn moves direct. Yes, November 15th, and through till February is moving in direct motion through your fifth house. And you are going to go into, I'm going to do what I need, structural pregnancy, like look at the ovulation cycle, like time it perfectly, or structural fertility, or structures and forms around business, entrepreneurial endeavors, new structures and forms that are going to work for you around the way you engage in your creativity and your artistic endeavors. And when Saturn is direct in the fifth house, if you have adult children, things in their life that have been sort of waylaid or on pause or rewind button since June, begin to go forward for those adult children, especially the firstborn child. The whole epic journey of Pluto through the sign of Aquarius is a new story. I'll be doing a new Pluto and Aquarius video. Stay tuned for that. But I've got 3 or 4 on my playlist. Transformation through the fourth house, legacy wealth, inheritances from mom and dad, money coming through in the next 20 years connected to land, property, real estate, wealth and riches through gold, silver, and precious metals, investing. Don't take my word for it. Get a financial advisor. Pluto can transform your relationship to your childhood, death and rebirth of concepts about my happy childhood, discovering and uncovering family and ancestral secrets. It's a big deal. But it starts this month, November 19th, 20th. You feel this new vibe coming through the sky, Pluto and Aquarius. However, also as he moves through this part of the sky, November 19th, 20th, will oppose Mars in the 10th house of career. Major tensions between home life and what you're doing in and from your home, and things to do with your private life and what you're doing in the home itself. Pluto here can have some of you over the next 2 decades move your home to another country. But maybe you also got a lot of drive and willpower rooted in the bottom of the home, in the roots of your life, the midnight hour, to drive with determination and almost superheroic willpower regarding career ambitions, career projects, and career achievements. So you're in hyper mode. November the 20th through to the end of the month, all the way through, in fact, till January 7th, about what you wish to accomplish in your home and home life. Mars is in the house of the father and father figures. Pluto is death and rebirth and wealth from the family. Some of you with Jupiter here will have an inheritance from a father figure become available or known to you as a possibility anytime between November the 19th through to, well, certainly through to, I'd say, January to January 6th. Okay. That's a strong possibility for this transit. If that doesn't happen, the same thing I just said can be reemerging April 18th, add about 6 to 7 weeks. And again, do you have some father figure, monetary support, granddad, great uncle Joe, dad, coming through the chart for you? Because this is an inheritance transit of Jupiter here. Jupiter heads direct in February, which can indicate the reception of monies from family of origin available to you, and take possession of them February through to June the 9th. Yeah, I gave you a future reading there. Anything else I want to tell you, Scorpio? Mars is your guy. I don't care how difficult it gets at the top of the sky. Mars is the guy who's trying to give you the right direction in life. He's the ruler of your sky. So breathe, and get through it. That's best I can say. It's nothing else to worry about here. I do like that when Mars is up in the top of your sky in November, he will be talking to Mercury in Sagittarius for a long time. Mercury will be retrograding in Sagittarius. And so Mercury kind of in Sag from November 2nd to January the 8th, more or less, is indicating a lot of potential for your drive, ambition, and hard work in the career sector, leading to increasing positive developments in your financial matters as well. Hey, Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Let's start off the story with the idea that you have a Mars transit November the 4th that flows to you. You do not mind the feeling of this transit. Mars is a fiery place, giving your fiery Sag energy more love. Mars is in the house of travel to foreign lands and shores. And often when he's up here, he likes the adventure of it all, especially in Leo, right? Big, bold energy, heartfelt travel adventures. This could mean that starting November 4th to January 6th, by the way, you're in the mode to travel. And if you do that international travel, December 6th to January 4th is to places you've likely traveled before. It's not brand new. One thing about Mars up here is that he's ambitiously powering you up to take actions and make decisions in alignment with your values spiritually, and your spiritual life can get fired up. You get all hot about your spiritual beliefs. You could become a holy roller or something. Mars up here is in the house of courts and legal matters. And this is like a fiery lawyer going to battle for you, and likely successfully. So keep in mind that legal battles regarding courts and law and judges can go well, perhaps when Mars is here, November 4th to January the 6th. And you might be ambitiously pursuing things that connect to your grandchildren. Your grandchildren belong to the 9th house. So grandchildren and elements of life around your grandchildren are highly activated. And you may be finding yourself wanting to experience more excitement with your grandkids if you have grandkids, and maybe travel to connect to those grandkids even. For any Sagittarius who write books, this is the house of book publishing. And again, decisions, actions, ambition, and willpower and drive for achieving things in the publications industry, including podcasting, lighting up the sky for you guys for November 4th to January the 6th. It impacts you Sagittarius most directly between 0 and 9 degrees or 10 degrees of Sag, because the retrograde station is at 6 degrees. And so anyone in the 0 to 9 Sag, Sun, Moon, and Rising degrees really do feel this beautiful flow of fire from Mars to your identity. And because it does also flow to the node of fate in the 5th house, it inspires you creatively. It inspires you to find more enchantment with life, more soul in your own life. These are Dharma energies. You're trying to come into alignment with purpose, with Mars's support, for that purpose to happen. Some of you could go back to school and ambitiously pursue applications or orientation toward higher education as well. Now, interestingly, mid-month on November the 15th, a very turbocharged electric change moon exalted in the sign of Taurus on Algol is happening right here. Well, look, karmic relationships are here. You might have a blowout, an end, a completion, a fullness around the end of a karmic debt relationship. Jupiter retrograde in the house of marriage can be the end of a marriage or end of a decision reversal around a long-term love story. So some of those Sagittarius could have these changes. If you're not with somebody, discount what I said. And maybe electric shock and change regarding animals and pets, especially elder pets, Saturn in the house of the home. So an elder pet could be having a major shocking change situation, could be passing away or something, or not even elder, just a surprise around a pet situation connected to the home. And with the Algol shocking energy, it's also a wealth star, and this is a debt house, not just karmic debt, but like, what do you owe? Do you owe money to your credit card, your mortgage holder? And you could possibly, since the moon rules the house of finance for you, have a major shift of turning point. You had a new moon here in May. What was the new beginning in May on around the 7th in the way you held the way you responded to your debts, your pets, your tenancy and rental situations as a landlord or a leasee. These are things that you started to ponder, or there were seeds planted in May last year. I mean, May 24, new moon. And now there's fulfillment, completion, resolution of these issues unfolding on the 15th of November. Add 2 weeks, but also over the 6 months that follow. If you have a job, you may have a surprising change regarding your job. This is like the job, work, employment stories, and a sudden surprising change in the word job could come out of this lunation as well. Also, you might want to remember that Saturn was retrograde since June, and now he goes direct on November 15th. Saturn will be moving direct through to February in the 4th house of land, home, property, real estate. You may have been alone, lonely, melancholic, burdened, or depressed when Saturn was here. But now, because he was retrograde, you were very inward, isolated, and in interior orientation, like the midnight hour, like biting your nails, pondering your life, maybe ever since about June, mid-June. Now he's going direct, and you're going to figure out what to do about all that pondering, revisioning, and revising you were doing. You may want to go direct here in ways that connect to the idea of home. Maybe it's time you realize to sell a home. Maybe it's time to pay off the debt on the home. Maybe it's time to relocate the home. All right. These are things that may emerge as variables as this direct motion Saturn plays out. If an elder's been living with you, maybe it's time for the elder to move on to a care center. These are examples that could happen as the elder Saturn goes direct in the house of home, starting on the 15th through to next February. Pluto in Aquarius in your 3rd house for 20 years, till 2044, is a beginning of a new story. A sea change is here. It's a radical change for you. It's once in a lifetime. And you're going to feel that change November 19th, 20th, time zone dependent. Pluto moves into your 3rd house. It's not a bad transit for you. You like it. It sextiles to you, can power you up in writing, online social media, communications, travel, short distance, skills-based teaching and learning. Power up, power up, power up. Also, it flows to you, so you don't mind it, but it's also not just about you. Aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces, nephews, and siblings, particularly a sibling one younger, and major transformations in their life or in your relationship to those people. Pluto here can really transform your neighborhood to a whole new neighborhood, maybe a new country and a new neighborhood as well, especially if you're floating IC in whole sign houses. IC is in your 3rd house, but that's why we do whole sign houses. We get so much more nuance from it. You can get rich online, rich through creative projects and writing projects as well. But there's a tension here. Pluto gets into this part of your sky November the 20th and immediately starts to tango with Mars across the way through till like January 7th. This is going to heat up by January 7th. It's going to be more intense. And so ultimately, if you take the positive side, determination and strength of willpower, like super heroic power to grind through something. What would it be? A writing project completion, an educational course that you're teaching or learning, something to do with travel plans, and really just going for it with such super heroic determination that nothing will stop you. Nothing can stop you now. You are unstoppable if you want to learn, travel, win a court case, write a book, publish a book, those kinds of things. You've just got a super grind going here. And when it comes to court matters, it's just like, well, Mars is fighting for you. Pluto, though, and Pluto in the third house could be like, the court matter involves a sibling. The court matter involves a neighbor, aunt, uncle, cousin, niece, and nephew. And there's that just this push pull between the desire for Mars to win in the ninth house of course, and you having to deal with that person with whom you are arguing over some resource or issue. And that's just a tension angle that goes through until January 7th. All right. Thanks for listening, Sag. We're on to the next sign. Just going to stop the share. I'm going to grab myself a little bit more tea, and I'll on a terrible rainy day in Vancouver, and I shall be right back. All right. Don't forget, like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. We're down to the last 3 signs, and we're going to roll on through. We just finished with the Sages, and now don't forget, they're all sign videos for your sign are already out, 30 minutes each, and they pinned to the description box of this channel, and also the comments in the description box under the more button. And here we are. We're talking now about Capricorn, sun, moon, and rising sign. Okay, Capricorns, here's the deal. Whoa. First off, Mars is moving through Leo. These are the highlights of the month. Mars is moving through Leo on November the 4th, and he doesn't leave till January the 6th. And in your story, that's about your 8th house of chunky money. It can indicate changes in your financial matters, especially regarding investments, bank loans, mortgages, tax structures, etc. But also Mars often goes to cut, end, and sever, divide things and battle for them. And if you're in any kind of resource battles with a significant other, a divorce settlement, spousal support, marriage divisions of assets, inheritance money battles, Mars is there. And Mars is not just there through to January 6th, but he comes back again April the 18th at about 6 to 7 weeks. So you've got 2 waves of this. Now, Mars here is often cutting something away. But if it's not money stories that you're battling to or dividing stuff up with, I want you to consider what it might be if it's deeper than that. What if it's like you're going to be, shearing away elements of identity, having an egoic pruning session? Because, endlessly we find the 8th house mashed up with moksha stuff, liberation, spiritual awakening, especially from a false sense of self, recognizing the true you, not just the character you're playing. So egoic identity shearing away for some of you spiritually inclined ones. But otherwise, there's definitely some changes you're wanting to make, or the sky is making for you, in how you handle the investments, the 401k, the money you share with a spouse or a business partner. And there's separation endings agreements that can change around those kinds of monies. Now, as Mars moves through here, November the 4th, and all of that, and retrogrades on December the 6th. So you're going to keep going back to this and redoing it and reinvestigating it. One thing I'd say is that he is flowing to the node of fate that's sitting in your 4th house. And this is an indication that some of this may involve buying and selling property and making decisions around investments in land, property, and real estate matters. So that's going to be a focus point, maybe November the 14th. November the 4th through to January the 6th. Also, we see that there is going to be a moon that forms on the 15th of November, exalted full moon in the sign of Taurus. This is not only a full moon, but it's got some shock and surprise or unexpected directions when it comes to your children, and when it comes to your romantic and sexual life, and when it comes to your entrepreneurial and business endeavors and creative projects. It is a money luck house, including winning money through gaming, casinos, or lotteries, or any other speculative endeavor that requires you to win the money rather than just earn it. And Algol is a well star, and it can indicate a surprising inbound bit of money of some sort that, money luck happens. So maybe you're going to get November 15th, some kind of positive surprise around money, or something surprising is happening with one of your children. Now, this doesn't have to be bad. Algol can be wealth, but also can be like, off with your head, but it trines you, right? This is a moon that flows to the Capricorn people, and Venus is sitting here, the Lord of the moon, in the sign of you, bringing you personal luck. And we do see as well the energy of Pholos, one small lottery ticket changes everything. I don't know, melting, wings are melting can be something that's already happened. Venus has moved past that a little bit, but in general, the idea here, well, maybe not, she'll be before the wings are melting. Where have your wings melted, Capricorn? And where are you going to restore that with some kind of luck that's unexpected and full? You planted a seed for this luck or these developments with your children or your romantic life. You planted the seed here back May the 7th with a new moon, and now the fulfillment is upon you. Look to the 15th, add a couple of weeks of November after that, and you should get the lay of this land and understand what it's for and what it's about. If you have a creative project or a creative mind and you're doing art and creative endeavors, there could be a breakthrough energy here, a surprising new direction that your creativity takes. Venus rules the arts. You are acting like Venus now. You've got your boss babe shoulder pads on. You got your Capricorn resourcefulness with the money goddess in your sign. So it's good for your money. It looks good for your money anyway. November the 15th, add a couple of weeks. Well, at the same time of the moon on the 15th of November, Saturn will head into direct motion after being retrograde since June. Saturn will head into direct motion in Pisces, the watery domain. And this is Pisces over in your chart. I'm going to point to Pisces so you can see what's going on down here. This is where Saturn began to retrograde and go back over old territory. Now, he has been in your third house, which is short distance travel, right? Or domestic travel, or maybe continental travel, but not exotic and far off lands travel. It has to do with neighbors and neighborhoods and siblings, especially one younger. And this is maybe even an area of constraint or hardship. And especially since June, I mean, in June with retrograde, starting in June, mid-June until this point, mid-November, you may have traveled to places you've been before. But with Saturn, I'm wondering if it feels like a place where you're alone or lonely or constricted, or there's some constraints around the travel. Or you could have re-engaged in learning opportunities from things you've learned before. Saturn retrograde could have you redefine a relationship with an aunt, uncle, cousin, niece, nephew, or sibling. But now Saturn will move into direct motion. And as he does move into direct motion on the 15th of November, between November 15th and February, when he slips into your fourth house, you're moving forward on something that has been maybe paused. So I'd say November 15th, renewed possibilities around travel and travel opportunities can be emerging. And with the square to Jupiter, it could indicate travel for work-related opportunities or debt relief opportunities as well. So you're moving forward. It could involve travel, could involve learning, could involve changes of neighborhood as well. And the beginning of those changes is about November the 15th, and it lasts through till next February. Any kind of hardship you've been experiencing with creative writing projects or online world endeavors, those are third house matters, and those can suddenly go from a stall to a forward momentum as well. Now, we talked about Mars earlier in your 8th house, but what we hadn't mentioned yet is that Pluto is going to head into the sign of Aquarius. And Pluto in Aquarius is a beginning of a 20-year story that you're going to live through till 2044. It'll never come back to Capricorn again. I'll be doing a whole Pluto video on this coming up in mid-November. Pluto moving into the Aquarian sky is for you to become more wealthy if you want. Pluto can bring great wealth as he travels through your second house, and he'll be doing this for 20 years. However, it can also transform your relationship to money and power and wealth, self-value, self-love, and self-esteem. How do you feel about yourself? What is your net worth, not just financially, but within your own self-value, self-esteem about who you are in this world? People have lived through this and they've lived to tell the tale. And the people who've already gone through this story, you might want to ask them, how did that feel for you? And those would have been the Sagittarius rising people or sun and moon. They already experienced this transit from 2008 until now. So now it's your turn to go through a second house Pluto transit, and you can ask them, how do you've experienced major catharsis, death, and rebirth through money and earnings and resource things. I know a lot of Sagittarius that can tell the stories, had a lot of money, lost a lot of money, got more money back, made decisions about money that were like life transforming, or money, earnings, and resources have been a big growth edge for Sages in the last 20 years or 16 years. And now it's your turn, 20 years ahead, for all of you Capricorns to have the same lessons about money, earnings, and resources. It feels to me like with the Pluto opposition, Pluto at November 19th, 20th-ish, moving into your second house, begins to battle with Mars all the way through till January 7th, intensifying as we got closer to January. Well, the downside of any opposition is struggle, meaning that something wants to happen in one part of your sky opposed by something else. This is like you want to make major changes like separation, divorce assets, inheritance money battles. You want to make major snip, cut, and sever regarding spousal support agreements, things to do with your finances you share with other people. And yet Pluto is in your money and earnings house. And when he first gets there at 0 degrees, he's like, for frig's sakes, let's make some more money. Let's wealth up here. Let's get our hustle on. Let's earn some money. Mars is busy snipping and paring away at or fighting over other kinds of money. As I said, inheritances, investment money, shared money in a marriage, all of that. But if you're not using it for conflict, or it's not using you, you may be powered up like with superior willpower, determination, ambition, and drive, a ruthless drive of self-will to get something done in the money stories of 2 and 8. It doesn't have to be either or. It's like you're trying to drive through with formidable willpower and ambition, some kind of resolution of a stalled out or conflictual situation, in your money stories. And finally, I'd say one more thing. Pluto transforms whatever it touches through death and rebirth. And this is your face, nose, mouth. So you could completely transform yourself if you're one of those people who does facial rejuvenation and you come out looking like this, you know what I mean? Go for it. But otherwise, you may also transform your dietary style, because what goes in your nose and mouth is your second house. Pluto will help you change that over the course of the next 20 years. So keep in mind, there's that kind of transformation too. And, Venus is the ruler of that exalted moon, as I mentioned earlier, and you have Venus moving through the sign of you all the way through from November 11th to December 7th. And so there's a bit of a kind of a possibility to beautify yourself facially, maybe teeth, mouth, nose, as a result of Pluto, but it's a big transformation. It wouldn't be something small. I would say between November the 19th and December 7th, it could look like some kind of cosmetic procedure that you may want to experience. All right, moving forward to the last 2 signs in the zodiac, Aquarius and then Pisces. Don't forget the 2020, the month ahead November videos are already out. You can listen for your sign in 30 minutes each. I'll link the playlist to the description box and in the pinned comments. Okay, so this is the overview. Number 1, November the 4th, in comes Mars into your 7th house. This is separation from somebody, usually. It could be your business partner, your significant other, cutting, ending, severing, or just time apart, distance, or separation. So if you're in a long-term love relationship and along comes November 4th, Mars will be here for 2 months. Mars will be here all the way through to January the 6th, and it could mean time away from the one you're with, a significant separation window. Now, I've watched this in my own chart. I'm Aquarius rising, and I'm with a partner. Usually we're separated for travel. There's some kind of distance because one of us is journeying somewhere. But this is an exceptionally long version of it because of retrogradation. Are you an Aquarius sun, moon, and rising in the first 9 degrees of Aquarius? It's going to really hit you because the station retrograde on January 6th is occurring at 6 degrees. So it's going to be those early born sun, moon, and risings that really feel this separation, where later on, mid-April to mid-June, it could be separation from somebody that you're significantly bonded to for the later born Aquarians. Either way, Mars here can also bring a lot of conflict or difficult stress levels to a long-term existing love story. So watch out for that as well. Mars here is also other people, and you may draw in Martian people. So after the 6th of December, the retrograde, all right, through to January could indicate January 6th, former lovers from the past coming out of the woodwork. But when Mars is in this part of the sky, you definitely could look at Martian people showing up. So if you were single and you were looking for if you're a female looking for like a man, like guy, especially a Leo Mars, you could get a Mars person showing up in your life. I wouldn't want to bake in a Mars relationship like that, though, because a new one, because it does sort of embed separation, distance, conflict, and severing energies into a marriage house, which is not ideal, really. Mars here can also be that your significant other is going through some major changes and making some major life decisions. And so it's really their story, and you're just witnessing this November 4th through to January. There's a big moon coming up, a full exalted moon on Algol, and it's going to be on November the 15th. Algol is that star that can be quite scary, but also is a well star. It's in the fourth house of home, property, land, and real estate, and your domestic private life. Full moons are amplifying something like to fruition and fulfillment and fullness that came off of the new moon on May the 7th. So seeds planted in the house of home, property, and real estate, let's say, May the 7th, go back to May the 7th and see what it is. And that you might now be completing here or fulfilling here or finishing up here, or even just harvesting something from. It can be projects and things you do in and from your home, or it can really connect to land, property, home, and real estate. Like literally, right? Literally. So, what's going on with those matters in your story. Energetically, Venus supports this full moon because she's happening to flow from Capricorn in the 12th house of past lives and backroom deals and negotiations and foreign lands and foreign shores. It is far off foreign shores and home matters. So surprising developments regarding your home and the word foreigner, foreign places, far off lands and shores, or money you generate from international revenue and sources, like a big windfall harvest of money coming through, or money and harvest from hospitals. I know it sounds crazy, but could be somebody in a hospital gives you money, like they're sick and they're going to pass and they put you in the will. It could be that, like I just entered a hospital lottery where we're raising money for the children's hospital. Maybe I'll win it. So, things like winning money through hospital lotteries could be a thing to do with property and real estate. I'm just making my story up, guys. Sorry, but there's a home-based lottery for a children's hospital, and it's like hospital home-based Jupiter Children Lottery wins. If I win, I recording the video on the 30th and the draw is on the 31st. I'll let you know. But the moon is fulfilling a longer story to do with your home and property and real estate. So don't think it's just about, it's something that you really are thinking about since last May. So for instance, for me, it was, I went on a pilgrimage to Portugal and I thought, I'm coming back here. I'm going to do a digital nomad visa because I really loved it. This is probably that. It's probably me saying, I'm going to think about massive, exciting turning point decisions and things are going to surprise me around opportunities to move abroad for a while or something like that. So you planted seeds in May. They're fulfilling themselves on mid-November's full moon with Algol, the well star, but also surprises from Uranus as well. We would also think about Saturn going direct. The bugger retrograded back in June, and now we'll move forward. Retrograde Saturn is kind of like a rewind, revise, pause, reset, go deep, go in. Sage-like wisdom tells us what we need and what we want. Okay, what we, literally, sagacity comes from Saturn, the wise one, the crone, and the senex. And so there's a lot of this retro. Oh God, tell me my internet didn't cut out. Thank God. I don't think so. Am I recording? Yeah. I just got a flashing warning light. Okay, I am plugged in. Okay, so Saturn going direct, November the 15th, in your house of money, earnings, possessions. Okay, you started to reset this question mark like last May about what it is you want to do to bring new structures to your finances. I incorporated, that's what I did in May last year, or I mean, just before that, but I was fully operational as a business in May. So I planted that thing. And then I revised in June. I'm going backwards now. June says, like, what do I have to think about now? What are you going to think about now? So I use myself as an example, trolls, but too bad. What do you need to go back and think about? Did you go back and think about June through to mid-November? structures for financial resources, savings, structures for the way you make money and the way money can be more enduring, stable, and reliable in your life. And this is also your dietary style, and going backwards and revising your dietary style, rethinking the way you eat and what you put in your mouth and what you ingest. I love this too, because Saturn retrograde is about the revisions going forward, is enacting them, and he's going forward in a sextile to Venus in the house of pleasures and bed pleasures and addictions that really does speak to a kind of like, let's move this forward, any kind of wine lover's middle way. Saturn doesn't finally get done with your second house until, February of 2026, really fully done. So you've still got more ways to structure your finances. Your Aquarius, he's the ruler of your sign. You don't feel burdened by this. You feel supported in finding your way to go forward regarding your money stories over the course of the next year. So you're going to continually do this, through to 2026. Saturn goes direct. Finally, one more thing I want to say about it. When he does go direct and he's going to be helping you revise, revision, and all of that, he does flow pretty beautifully to that, energetically, whole sign flow to your fourth house where that surprising full moon happens. So again, money and home and real estate and money, a domicile where you live and resources are entwined in what Saturn wants to show you. On November 15th, add 2 weeks, and then it lasts up to 6 months for the fullness of it to fulfill itself. Finally, Pluto is moving into Aquarius. It's a big deal. I've run 3 Pluto and Aquarius videos on my playlist. I'm going to do my 4th and I think final Pluto and Aquarius video coming up, like the big picture view. So stay tuned for that. If you're an Aquarius, you've already lived through, Pluto and Capricorn since 2008. Transforming 12th house matters for you. Now it's all about you. You are literally going to embody Pluto. Divine willpower moves through you. Evolutionary titanic forces that are multi-generational move through you. You are becoming Plutonian. Pluto at Aquarius has given birth to the French Revolution, to the American Revolution. How are you in a revolution of self? The way you think you are and who you are cannot possibly stay the same. If it's your Aquarius sun, it's your career. If it's your moon, it's about home and mind-body complex. If it's about your rising sign, your whole character in the game of life is changing. So this is a big deal. This is not a small transit. And as Pluto ingresses into Aquarius, the first thing he does on November 19th, 20th is he gets into a tussle with Mars in the house of marriage, Mars in the house of significant business partners, Mars in the house of audience and marketplace. And there is a tug of war, something about you powering up on all cylinders. And conflicts with others, trolls, for example, who I can barely tolerate these days. I mean, just seriously, I make one mistake in my video and someone jumps all over me and like tells me I'm senile. Get a grip, people. All right. What you need to do here, Pluto, Aquarian people, is understand that a force is moving through you that's transpersonal. And if it's time to delete the trolls, block the trolls, quit the marriage, change that business partnership, it is going to be done because you are being done by Pluto. Pluto is doing you. You're not doing Pluto. All right. So look for some tension in business and love partnerships, trolls, marketplace, audience storylines. And that's not just true November the 20th when Pluto is in your sign, but all the way through to 2044, as every 2 years Mars will oppose Pluto and this dynamic continues on. You're going to learn something different every time. Obviously, if you're Aquarius rising sun or moon in the first 4 or 5 degrees of Aquarius, you're feeling this energy much more strongly than the later born Aquarians, the later degree Aquarians. And this gets very intense around January, okay? Like January the 1st to the 7th, that's when there's an exact opposition between Pluto and Mars. So be ready for that because that is where you really, really feel this intense like friction between what your agenda is and what the agenda of someone else may be. Wait a minute, one more thing. Determination and willpower are features. Determination and willpower are features of Mars and Pluto, even in an opposition. So your willpower and determination to do things that must be done regarding relationships, audience, marketplace, and significant others is, bar none, on steroids for you during this time. Last and never least, and best and always best, the mystic poets of the zodiac, drumroll please, Pisces, sun, moon, and rising sign. So for you guys, there's a story going on here. It's pretty important. It's going to open up this Mars transit through your sixth house, and it's really good for eliminating debt, changing your health protocols, getting more exercise. Mars moves here November the 4th, and you get your game on. You're more competitive, and you might quit a job, or you may apply for and try to win the position for a job in a company. When I say relieving debt, this is debt karmic, this is debt financial. Both kinds of debt can be cut, ended, and severed. The reduction of debt, especially with the South Node in the 8th house, and Mars letting go of debt, however you need to do it, bankruptcy declarations, paying off a mortgage, paying down a credit card, major debt elimination changes can come through the sky November the 4th to December the 6th, or even further. That's a direct motion, November the 4th through to January 6th. A lot of that stuff is happening. It's a little bit dicey for pets. Be careful, because the Mars is injuries and pets are there. So keep, cautious with your pets. Make sure you don't let them run outside the house during high traffic hours or something like that. Mars can cut or snip our family domestic animals. Unfortunately, he does it every 2 years, but this is a weird one. He comes back into your Leo sky April 18th and add about 2 more months. So you're going to have a lot of Mars in the 6th house story. I think it's a lot of snipping karmic debt and relationships you have that are not needed, not necessary. You can get rid of them. You realize you've finished your job. The time is up, especially later in the month. We'll get to that soon when Pluto and Mars tango. And if you want to quit a job, or a job might quit you, or someone in the job place quits, it can actually benefit you, because basically Mars is going to talk to Mercury for a long time in your 10th house, because Mercury will retrograde up there. And so there's big changes in the work and job and career story that are beneficial towards you. So quitting a job, you find the perfect next job right away, or, we fire an employee and it's the best thing you could do. Those are kinds of the vibes going on here with that Mars transit November 4th through to January 6th. Then we also notice and don't forget, the long form video for you is already out, right? It's like 30 minutes long. It's got every little detail you ever need to know about. So check my description box and pinned comments to do your one individual video. The full moon is happening at 15 degrees, and it's a big deal. It's going to really intensify an Algol star here with Uranus. It's exalted Venus full moon, Venus ruled full moon, 3rd house. Unexpected major surprises coming from the house of siblings, aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, cousins, neighbors, and neighborhood. Surprise! But there were seeds planted here in May, and now the seeds have blossomed into a fruiting moon, and the fruiting moon has apples dropping from the orchard into the orchard grass. And what is it you're going to have here? That you can fulfill something that you kind of wanted to, or you planted here. Travel. So did you want to travel to some place and you planted a seed in May? Now you can fulfill the travel dream or the goal, or short distance travel as well, or travel connected to siblings, especially since Venus rules this moon and she's in the house of the elder sibling, and this is the house of the younger sibling. So surprises and positive developments with siblings, both younger and older, one younger, one older, positive, surprising developments around travel, learning, or educational opportunities emerging in the 2 weeks after the mid-November full moon. Exalted. Wealth coming from a sibling, surprises in a sibling's wealth stories, support from an elder sibling financially. These are ways the sky could show up for you in the wake of the November moon. Maybe golden opportunities as well coming into your career for a new career gain, a job opportunity as well, given the placement of Venus in the 11th, as well as Mercury in the 10th flowing to the North Node. So if you're looking for a job and you're not employed, this is going to be a nice moon. Mid-November, add a couple of weeks. And maybe it does have a seed planted in May. Maybe you met someone who knew about a job, but it wasn't ready yet. There's some seed planting, but it could look like new money coming into your career earnings story from fresh new job itself or new positions or developments within an existing career or job matter. And then we notice that Saturn is moving direct after being retrograde since June. Saturn is you are serious, sober-minded, realistic. He went backwards and you might have felt heavy, melancholic, interior, alone, lonely. When Saturn retrogrades, it's like the cave-dwelling hermit, the wise sage man in the top of the sky. But when he goes direct, he's like, yeah, get form and structure, taskmaster, discipline, boss, boundaries. So he's going direct, like inward, and you've been inward maybe since June, right? Realistic, sober-minded, rethinking your life, revising your inner life, asking yourself what you want to do when you grow up, asking yourself if you're already too old for the life you want. These are weird Saturn stories that go on, having to do with health challenges and straighten out some health matters that feel like I'm turning into an old man or woman, even if you're young. That's a Saturn in the first house story. And it's Saturn retrograding since June. I mean, I know a lot of Pisces are going kind of like on pause in their life, kind of finding themselves like, introspective, sure, but more than that, more like kind of stalling a little bit, like a plane in a stall or a car in a stall. And so now Saturn goes direct. Your wisdom, sagacity, realism can come into form and action. And you're going to start doing that because he's direct on November 15th, and he continues to move through your sign, Pisces, through till February. All right, so you're really feeling this energy of momentum coming in now, mid-November through to February. He'll be back again, by the way. But that's his short distance jaunt to get to your second house. Pluto is transpersonal and transgenerational and evolutionary, but he's moving into your 12th house. And ask anybody who's lived through this. All right. Talk to a few people who've gone through it already. That would be your Aquarius rising friends, especially. Pluto will transform your relationship to your spirituality. End of story. It is going to be a journey over the next 20 years, 2044, that you will find your relationship to true self, God, a spiritual illumination, full liberation, moksha, Buddhahood. If you want it, you're going to have those kinds of episodes available to you. Pluto here can transform your relationship to money and earnings from off foreign shores and lands. Pluto here can move you to another country from where you currently live. Jupiter in your 4th house with Pluto in your 12th can indicate opportunities to move your home to another country, or eventually move your home to another country. But if that's going to happen, that's a Pluto story that the seed is planted by next June, that you want to get yourself moved to a country other than the one you're currently living in. With Pluto in your 12th house, wealth can be generated from long distance business properties, alliances, doing business with foreigners, selling your stuff internationally through borderless income and revenue with digital payment systems. These can bring you great wealth over the course of the next 20 years. When Pluto first gets here, though, on November 20th, he comes into an opposition to Mars. Mars will be here, and it will be perfectly intense the first week of January, because retrograde Mars at 0 degrees and Pluto like they're going to crisscross each other. First week of January, watch out. Tug of war, two polarities going on, tension in the sky between your land of pets, your 6th house debts, karmic debt relationship, and your relationship to work. So there could be some significant determination and discipline and superpowered willpower as you are like on steroids, getting some kind of work project or work situation done with unrealistically super heroic determination. Okay, that's one thing. But the other thing is you could be getting ready to end a karmic debt relationship of any kind. I don't care what it is. We can divorce anybody karmically. So somebody in your life, you may be getting ready to snip that relationship thread. That's all I can tell you. We can divorce a family member. We can divorce a spouse energetically. Karmic debt relationship, death and rebirth, cut and sever, ending complete. And I don't know who it is. I don't know what it is. It will show you what it is. It's also South Node in the house of, this is South Node, finishing a journey through the house of your deepest karma. So there is definitely a South Node Mars story going on, snipping a karmic debt relationship. It is complete. It is done. I remember when my father of my children had a coma, and I was at his bedside every day with his current wife. And then when he came out of the coma, I was super medical advocate. I had a dream that the words were written across his karate gi: your karmic debt with him is done. Your karmic debt with somebody or some situation is done. All right. And if you have a pet, unfortunately, a Mars Pluto opposition in the house of pets, it might be time for that pet to pass. It just might be they're going to leave, and you might have an end of that relationship as well. All right. So just keep that in mind. Sixth house matters. Otherwise, our work situations, and it could be a lot of explosive tension from hidden enemies in your workplace coming through the sky. I hope not. November the 20th through to January, first week of January. Well, Pisces, I hope that was helpful. Hope that was useful. I'm now going to stop the recording. I'm recording on October 30th. I'm way behind my production schedule because I'm also recording my 2025 pre-sale bundle. If you haven't got those videos, they're all turning out to be about 2 hours and 15 minutes long. They're really long, 2 hours minimum is for sure, but I'm really enjoying making them, and they're going to be ready to your inbox by November 17th. So grab those as well, and I'll see you in the next video. This is recorded on the 30th of October, probably coming out on Friday, the 1st of November. Bye, guys.